Greetings, brothers and sisters from around the world. Pull up a chair. It's time to get down to the business. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, Mr. Jason Black. Glad to be with you all here this evening. And I have a couple of guests in the room here tonight. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and introduce them here. First, coming to us from sunny Southern California is none other than Salty V. Some of you have seen her before in other places, and she lives up to her reputation. So tonight she's going to give me a hard time. So welcome to the business, V. Glad to have you with us.
Thank you.
Also joining us here tonight is none other than life coach, transformational figure, an all-around great woman here, the only Karen that any of us like. So on Instagram, Defining Karen, welcome to the business. Well, ladies, the reason why you're here tonight, boy, I got to tell you, we've been talking about this for a while. This is really something that people are talking about now in the modern environment, and I thought you two would be great to speak to about this. So right now, folks are asking, what can a woman expect today? And two of you got one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast, and I think you're both in ground zero in your own respective ways, Maryland, California, for exactly what they're encountering here. I'm sure you both hear this on a daily basis if you don't encounter it. And right now, I got to tell you, it's never been rougher. It's never been harder, especially for women today, but particularly over the age of 30. So I'm just going to get right off into it. Let me start with Karen. Karen, a female today in the year 2022. She's 32, 33, 35 years old. She's got 2 kids. She's single. She wants a man. What can she reasonably expect, in your opinion?
I would say it'd be a challenge. Can she find a guy? Yes. Maybe she would have to lower her standards a little bit, I think, sometimes, what you find out here. I couldn't imagine being single with 2 kids. I don't have any children, so trying to accomplish that and find someone would be really hard. It's hard with no kids. So just thinking of a man to be a model and to love those children, I think would be a challenge.
Why do you think that? Well, let me see. First of all, you said she'd have to lower her standards. So let me find out here exactly what standards can a woman over the age of 30? Let me start there with just the age differential. What standards can a woman over the age of 30 have?
I'm picky. So I don't tend to look at like all the things that a guy has or like assets, but I would think that if she has children, she would be looking at safety and security. If she's not well established on her own. So if she's, not making good income and she has children, she's probably looking for someone that can help provide. So I think it seems really tough out here to find someone who wants to take in someone's children. They may have kids. If you're over 30, a lot of guys already have kids. They may be coming out of divorces. And it's tough because they may not be ready. So your pool is a lot smaller. And meeting any guy who's separated or who's coming out of a divorce, they're not ready. So they're coming with their own baggage. So I think trying to blend a family or find someone who's willing to take you and your kids in and love you properly, like that's the tough part, to find someone suitable.
All right, that was an easy ball. Let's try a hard one here. Over the age of 30, no kids, none of the usual baggage that you would expect. What can a single female over the age of 30, period, reasonably expect out here today?
Sorry, the cleaning crew. I hope you can't hear that. What can they expect? It's challenging. So if a guy has been single, usually I think their game is a lot stronger. They've finessed it. So you're having to pull through all the BS to really get to know them. A lot of people lie. They lie about where they are because they want to look good. So it's just hard to find like genuine connections in people. I think that's the challenge. Timing. So a lot of men, like they're professionals, they're busy, you're busy. So I think those are some of the challenges I come across. But then I also don't look at finances. So I look at standards, character. I think that's really hard. And so most guys, they always want to know like what you're looking for. And it's like you're either that or you're not. And I don't find a lot of guys who actually like honor and respect women. I feel like they treat a lot of women as objects. It's like I'm not a person, or they've had a lot of bad experiences. So they come with a lot of this is how women are, and they place that on you. So it's and if they haven't done any work to like heal their past experiences, heartbreak, all of that stuff, like it's a lot to take on. So those are challenges I deal with. It's just it was a lot easier coming out of college. So like when I got married, I met him in college, so we didn't have all that baggage. And when you meet someone, over 35, they come with a whole bunch of stuff. And if they haven't processed it, it's just impacting you. They're just dumping it on you. And it doesn't come out early on. It'll come out. I can pretty much catch it pretty early on in the dating process. But if you're not a good listener, if you're a woman focused on just getting a man or being loved, you may overlook those things. And so it's just hard to find a guy who's ready and willing, who's ready to settle down. A lot of them just want to have fun, very casual situationships, sneaky links, married. Like it's a lot out here. It almost makes you not want to date because you just don't know all the stuff that they're hiding from you.
Well, I'm glad I'm not the cynical one here tonight. That's very, very helpful. I appreciate that. All right. Well, I got to ask V now. Ma'am, you live in Southern California. You are, can I say you're a mom?
Yeah.
Okay. You are out here in the thick of it. You are probably in the most ruthless dating environment in America right now. So for you, what is it like for dealing with you in that regard? And by the way, everyone knows I don't actually deal with dating. I deal with power dynamics, but there's a reason for that because I think as you can all see here, definitely where she's concerned, V does have the coin of the realm. So that's very, very helpful to have. She doesn't look like a hound dog. That's great. She looks Los Angeles ready. That's great. However, even for yourself, what do you believe you can expect?
So I'm going to go ahead and say that I feel like dating, whether you have kids or not, it's pretty much the same because like she said, just your dating pool is absolutely different. When I started dating, I thought, I had to lower my standards. That's actually not true. You don't need to lower them. It's just people who are willing to accept kids, it's going to be a different bubble. So just your options are a little bit different. For me, I feel that dating is interesting because you have a lot of people saying what they want, but less of who they have to be in order to have that type of person that they are looking to date. So I feel that you're going to attract everything out there. You're going to attract the good guys, the bad guys, the people who play games, but a lot of it has to do with why you are accepting certain people to date. Me personally, I've had a great dating experience over this past year. I definitely looked at certain qualities. I feel like you definitely have to be clear on what you want and not being afraid, but then also knowing what you have to offer, not having this long list thinking that you have to settle. Know what you bring to the table and what you want to be brought to your table as well. And the dating experience can be fun. And that's just my take on it. To me, dating's fun.
You all, I swear I didn't give her that as a script. I swear these are her own words. Vanessa, ma'am, it's been a great experience over the last year. Great. The word she used was great, not good. Great.
Great.
Okay. What? Ma'am, thank you so much for being optimistic. I wanted you to balance me out, the both of you. I thought that was going to be the most cynical thing here, and I was wrong. Ma'am, what does a woman expect today? What exactly were you expecting? And did you get what? I'm going to put you on the spot. Did you get what you were expecting?
Right. So, I mean, at first, when I got out there, and mind you, I've been in long-term relationships, 8 years, 2 year, 3.5 years. So me dating is very rusty. However, so when I first got out there, I was like, okay, what do I want? And I was very clear, like in the very beginning, I'm not looking for anything serious. And I feel like things are tricky when people just don't know what they want, or they like to tell people what they want to hear. I'm brutally honest no matter what. So in the beginning, I'm like, look, I want to date super casual, not saying that that means sex casually. It means like I want to have a good time. I want to get to know you. And if in the future I want something serious, then I will let you know, and you have the option to say yes or no at that point. I feel that a lot of people like to pretend to be things that they're not. They want to paint this picture perfect package out there. And I think that the quicker that we can be honest, the quicker that we can get funneled through the BS people. So a lot of people aren't used to people being upfront and honest. And when you can say that you want transparency and you don't get upset with whatever they say a lot, you can, like, again, skip all of the BS.
Okay, but that doesn't, I'm going to come to you here in just a moment, Karen. So pay attention to this next question. What type of man does he have to be that you require?
Right. So for me, I prefer a entrepreneur, and this is only because they had to do a whole bunch of self work, not necessarily because of the title, but the way a man makes his money makes a difference on the way that he moves through life, whether or not he has to work on himself or not. A lot of people have 9 to 5s. They don't have to work on themselves. They just go to work, clock in, clock out. So for me, I prefer a man that is a entrepreneur, business wise. And, working on yourself means that you are addressing past trauma. You know how to, most of the time, talk to people, express exactly what you want clearly and unapologetically. Does not mean that you are rude. It just means like, no, this is what I want, XYZ. These are my expectations if I'm going to date you. So that's the type of man that I allow to date me, because we get to choose both ways.
Must be nice to be able to say that's the man that she allows to date her. That must be nice to be able to say that. Most women can't say that. Now, you said he has to be an entrepreneur, so that means that he can sell DVDs on Santa Monica. So I'm glad to hear that.
Not necessarily DVDs on Santa Monica. Hold on. Like I said, the entrepreneurship has to be something where he has to work on himself. So, for example, you can meet somebody who is a millionaire, but he makes his money being an athlete. He had to develop, for the most part, in only one area of his life. So his mental may not be where I would like it to be. So how he makes his money in that realm matters.
Okay. And everybody here, make sure you hit the like button over there. Otherwise, I'm going to think you hate the program. I'm going to go ahead and shut it down here in a minute. So hit the like button here for us. Thousands of you. Let's go ahead and take care of that. Before I get to Karen, you didn't mention a number, because she just said, well, he can be a millionaire. Can he be less than a millionaire?
Absolutely. Me, and again, this is me. I make over 6 figures with me having 2 kids, as I should, to take care of the lifestyle that I have, and especially to live in California. So I feel if anybody wants to date me seriously, they need to keep in mind that I have 2 kids, and they should make a certain income that if they want to pursue a relationship with me, they can hold for that as much as I'm going to be able to hold for them.
But she didn't give us a number. We're going to come back to that in a moment. But by the way, notice she didn't give a number. Let's go ahead and deal with that. Karen, how important is having a number?
It might be important. You know what? I most of the guys I date are really smart and ambitious, so I don't really think about that. Like, it's not a criteria because I don't attract, or if I do attract it, I don't entertain it. So it kind of they just fly past me. I don't notice them.
Right. But what I'm saying, though, is that when ladies talk about their difficulties or what they want or what women can expect, the part that gets beat around the bush the most is, by the way, they don't say a number. When everybody knows, all of you, ALL, absolute, numerical, empirical, absolute, you all have a number. If this dude does not make a certain amount of money, you're not going to give him the time of day. Even sweet, innocent looking little Karen over there is not going to talk to him. He's literally invisible to her. So let me give you one more shot at it, Karen. Can we discuss the number?
I don't talk about those things. I think as you get to know, you can kind of tell. You can tell like how they arrive, what they do, how they show up, their speaking, the way they budget and spend their money. Like you can just tell. I don't really come out and ask them or how much money they make. I never thought to ask.
You might not ask, but you damn sure know what it is. Otherwise, you wouldn't know that you've hit the number or not. Let me just say, for example, would you date a guy or be with a man, consider being with him long term if you didn't know what he made? Karen.
I haven't really considered it, right? So like I haven't since I divorced, I haven't really been in a serious relationship. So I've been kind of single-ish for like 6 years.
We got to get you out of your funk, Karen. We've got to get you.
I mean, it doesn't mean I haven't been dating, but it's just not.
Thank you.
I usually rule them out pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And it's not about the money that rules them out.
Oh, come on.
So I haven't gotten to that. But then, like I said, like I tend to deal with guys who are professionals or entrepreneurs. So a lot of them, they have money. So it's just not something that kind of comes up in conversation.
Have you dealt with a man since your divorce who didn't make over 6 figures?
I did.
What did he do for a living?
What did he do? So
thank you. It was so important she can't remember.
I was like, what did he do? Yeah, I try to block that part out.
That means that she saw him and then didn't call him back. She's trying to be very polite right now. Know that she's like, when women start giving the anybody can talk to me speech, just like nobody can talk to her. Nobody. That's what it means.
No, I love getting to know people. I think in terms of being serious, that's a whole other thing. But it's more like the person's character than the money. I feel like money is something you can make. Like you can go make that. You can go do that. So, but you can't necessarily make characters. So there's just things that are way more important to me than I guess the money. But then again, like I said, I'd never had to deal with someone who didn't have money or who wasn't
because you filter out the ones who don't.
Most of them, I think, probably because how they approach me, like
all men approach all women the same. It's not about how they approach you. Everybody approaches you the same. You do
they do not approach the same. They do not.
For the most part, men do. And you can tell it at a glance. The first thing you're looking for is, quote unquote, does he have his life together? AKA how much money is. See, I had to define this because right now they're giving me girl speak. So I had to, and Karen's being very polite. I appreciate that. She is guarding her image very carefully. That's very nice of you. But Karen, you even look expensive.
I'm not. I probably should ask for more. I don't ask for a lot of things.
Glad to hear that. What in the 6 years you've been divorced, what's the cheapest date you've been on?
Probably free.
Define free. Where did free happen at?
Free might be like a hike.
Thank you. Now, how many, quote, hiking places in your part of Maryland do you have in your immediate vicinity?
A lot. There's a lot of trails where I live.
That means she lives in one of the nice areas. I'm very glad for you to say that. So thank you very much for clearing that up. Vanessa, ma'am, you didn't give a number.
I definitely can. So for me, it's much more than just like the income that they make. It's also how they spend their money. So somebody can make a whole bunch of money. They can make over $200K a year and have a bad spending habit. I look at a man in a totality. However, if I had to put a number, they would at least have to make 150 plus a year. And have good financial literacy, because that's what is key. Now, if you have a bad spending habit or you like to indulge in a whole lot more things, whether it's designer, certain things like that, then I feel like that sort of income, when dating me and taking me serious relationship, not casual dating. Casual dating is casual dating, but a serious one where you're entertaining the thought of being with me long term and I have 2 kids, then definitely need to be more.
150,000 a year.
Yes.
Now, does he get to have kids? Does he get to be a single dad making
Yes.
$150,000 a year?
So for me, I prefer it and filter out men with no kids. So I prefer men with kids. So
What?
obviously, yeah, give me a
Ma'am.
dad.
Okay, you ain't got to lie to kick it.
I'm
Ma'am,
not lying. Give me a dad.
you prefer single dads.
Yes. Single dads that take care of their kids. Yes. They're not as selfish. They focus up on family. It's easier for me to build with that type of man than trying to teach a man how to be a stepfather, a father to my children. You come already equipped with things that I don't have to teach you.
Oh hell, I don't need Pepto. I need Gaviscon. I didn't even come prepared tonight. Vanessa, are you seriously telling us that you in Southern California, you filter out the men whom have the most upward mobility, the most freedom, the most capability to do all the things you want? You're filtering all of those out for the fellas who already come situationed.
I have a situation. Yes. Here's the thing.
Yeah,
I'm not
but you're a woman.
Okay, fair. But I'm not saying that I'm not going to date the man without the kids, but he looks less attractive to me if I'm looking at a long-term relationship.
Okay, let me go ahead and decipher this for you all. Vanessa, so you're telling me the last, for example, 2 men that you've been with were both single fathers.
The last one did not have any kids. I was with him for 3
Okay,
years.
there you go. There you go. All right. Thank you.
I'm being honest, but the one before that had 2 kids. And anybody who I recently date now has kids.
There you go. All right. I just wanted to make sure we got that taken care of there, because let's be clear. You say everybody else had kids. Now, did they have custody, sole custody of their children?
No, they were co-parenting. Co-parenting is also, I mean, if they have sole custody, that's fine. But if you have a situation where you have to share custody, that needs to be peaceful.
Right. But there's my thing. It's very easy to talk about a single father in the abstract and saying, well, he's got kids. It's another thing to say he is a man, his children live with him full time. Because, for example, do your children live with you full time?
No, I have a very good relationship with my ex-husband. We alternate by the week. So I'm kidless half of the month.
Okay. So if the guy had sole custody of his children, do you think that would be an issue?
No.
You are so sunny. You are so sunny.
Oh
I thought you were going to be exactly the opposite. I thought you'd be cynical SoCal and that Karen would be sunny East Coast. And it's been exactly the opposite. Karen's more like me, and you are just a different creature altogether. Folks, we should all move to her part of California. They love life over there. However, at this point in your lives, can I get away with saying both ladies are in their 30s? Can I get away with saying that?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, I can get away with that without somebody sending me a poison pen letter. 20 years from now, what are you expecting?
I'm gonna be married. I'm not worried about it.
You're not worried about it?
I'm not.
So you don't feel that there's any hurry for you?
No. So here's the thing. I feel like a lot of people, and there's nothing wrong with if you feel fulfillment in a relationship. I feel that I am whole on my own. I'm not going to say that I don't need a man. I absolutely need that in my life. I feel like a lot of women go through life trying to be strong, independent, saying that they don't need a man. I absolutely need a man in my life. However, if the right man does not come across me, I'm okay with being single. I'm okay with being single till I'm 50. I would much rather have 3 separate relationships over the course of the rest of my life, and they be good for what they were, instead of being married and miserable for the next 30 years.
So you're saying that you would be okay not being married at all?
Correct. I would prefer it, but I would be okay because I am at peace and happy as a single person.
Quick, Karen, you coach women. Is there any such animal as a peaceful, happy, single woman? And if so, how do you define that?
I'm happy as single. I feel like I don't have to deal with anything or anyone. If if you can create partnership and it works, then I think it can be beautiful. I think I sometimes I don't see people understand what partnership means or teamwork means. So I actually love being single. In fact, most men are trying to coerce me into dating and being in a relationship, and I'd much rather be single.
Okay,
So
you don't think that takes a toll on women, like women's psyches today? Do you like hear men say once they're alone, when they get comfortable like that, they become unfit to be with? Because you have to accept that mindset first. It is people are not made to be solitary creatures, particularly females. Females are not even biologically wired for solitude. Females are wired to be social and sociable. How can you be a healthy female and be isolated?
I don't think that's necessarily true. So like, I think it depends on people's background. So I grew up as an only child. And
Well, that answers a lot.
so I actually prefer my alone time. I get exhausted when I'm around people. So I can be around people and engage them, but I really have to retreat and be like, you know what, I need a moment. Like
Okay.
give me my time. And it looks the same. So even when I was married, like I would be around him and then I would need my alone time.
Well, that's the thing right there, in case you were raised as an only child. Can you see how that would cause a problem though? Because like for a woman, there's a statement that I make here, and both of you can weigh in on this if you want to. A woman is you're only half of a woman without a man. Without a man to juxtaposition your femininity against, you lose your identity without that.
I don't think I agree that you lose your identity.
Okay. Tell me let me start with you then, Vanessa, since you jumped into this.
Okay.
What is the feminine identity separate and apart from a man?
So here's the thing. I feel it's tricky because you hear a lot of women say that they lose themselves when they're in a relationship and they find themselves when they're out of it, right? And I feel like it really comes down to having the right partnership. Doing the self-work. I don't know if I can necessarily answer that question. I don't really have like the full clarity on that, I think, without like really dwelling on that question. But I just don't feel like it is that way because you hear that often. You know, they get into a marriage, they lose themselves, they have kids, they forget who they are, and then they divorce, and then they find themselves, they are at peace. And but again, I think that really does come down to the dynamics of that relationship to begin with, because a lot of men aren't even sitting or in relationships leaders now. Like we have a lot of women leading households. There are a lot of things that are broken and backwards. So yes, I feel like that would be true, but I feel like in the world right now, that balance is gone, and a lot of women aren't finding that in their relationships. So I don't agree with that.
Well, that's my whole thing though. But if we can't define what the feminine identity is separate and apart from a man, because if I ask you what is your feminine identity, you're going to say, obviously, the natural thing, what it is juxtapositioned against a man, how it complements a man. If you including children, that's once again how it complements a man. If you remove a man from the equation, what do you have? If take the feminine creature, remove, and I'm saying the word creature from a scientific standpoint, not creature from Black Lagoon. If you remove that from the equation, what do you have? If you remove her identity juxtaposition against men, what are you left with? What exactly is sitting in that chair?
I think it's whatever she wants to be. I mean, here's the thing. Anything gets created out of language, right? So whatever I declare myself to be, that is what I am, regardless of a man is there or not, right? So there could be variables out in the world that may change up how I interact in the world, right? Because there's something there, but ultimately I am whatever I say I am. There, I think. So femininity, there is a way I guess you have to be. So, okay. I grew up, so during my formative years, I was raised by my dad. So I actually grew up with a lot more masculine energy. It wasn't until after my marriage that I learned femininity. Like I had to understand, like, because I met my husband when I was really, really young. And so then coming out, it was like, well, it's different. It was totally different. I mean, like these dating apps. Like I was coming into a world of catfishing, and I didn't know what I was stepping into. It was really strange. And things weren't working because I was very independent, or like thought I was independent, not as in like dominating the man, but I was so used to like, you know, having a career, taking care of my own, managing my stuff. So it doesn't work necessarily to come that way. So you have to soften. So I would have to learn. I had to undo all that and learn what it was to be ladylike, what it was like to just allow a man to do like little things that I learned to do because my dad taught me to be that way. He taught me to be 2 steps ahead of the game. He taught me to be self-sufficient and self-reliant. So then having
Right,
to
but how can you be happy, and how are you happy? How does a woman be happy and fulfilled in her feminine identity? You said I had to learn those feminine things after I was married. Exactly what were the feminine things you learned separate and apart from your husband?
So like I had to learn, I guess, to be dainty. I was I was kind of a tomboy growing up. So I had to learn to allow him to do things. I had to learn to ask for help, even if it was something small that I could do. It was allowing him to do it so that he would feel like a man or be the man. I realized how important just those little things mattered. Like I don't really need you. Like I remember one time I stepped back and just asked the guy to change like windshield wipers. Like it takes like a minute to do. And could I have done it? Yeah. But it made him happy. Well, actually, it didn't quite make him happy. He was kind of frustrated because he didn't know how to do it. But like it gave him something that made him feel manly, potentially. So
Well,
I had to
certainly, I've
fall
certainly seen that before. Some of these females and stuff. I've noticed in particular a lot of females when they're raised as single children, it does come out with a tomboyish trait to it, which makes it harder. It's easier to have that earlier in life than to try to pick that up later. Do you think that causes an impediment to the type of men who A, are attracted to you, and B, that you would be able to deal with?
um I'm not exactly sure because I don't really have something, I guess, to compare it to. I just knew that initially I would have a lot of arguments, or I would have to deal with the male ego would come up a lot. So I had to learn to navigate that, and it
The
wasn't.
male ego.
Yeah, like they would feel challenged, and I had to learn to carry myself in a certain way where I wasn't trying to challenge him, but like the way I process and think, sometimes I can say something and people feel challenged, even though that's not my intention. So I had to learn to behave a certain way once I kind of realized I was bumping up against something that was causing him to feel challenged, even though I wasn't challenging him. So I've had men want to like compete or like try to do better. And I'm just like, I'm not trying to compete with you. Like, that's not what I want to do. I'm not trying to drive and like, beat you at everything. And so I was bumping up against a lot of that. So it was causing a lot of tension in the relationship. So I had to fall back, understand what my dad taught me isn't serving me now. I had to study, like I studied, what's her name, Mama Gina? So I had to study like being feminine and like learning feminine sexuality and like all of those things. And it was effective. So I had to learn to navigate that and to fall into my feminine energy where I was so used to being in my masculine energy.
Well, thank you. That's a very candid description of that, because that brings me to what I want to speak about here next. V, you said about men leading. And that's a very important thing that you brought up there. Can a man be your social leader if he is not also your financial leader, Vanessa?
I don't think so. I personally don't
Explain why.
So I feel that there's a level of respect that comes along with somebody leading you financially. I feel that the moment that if I have to lead the house financially, there's going to be a lot of questioning, that is going to come off the wrong way because I can't fully trust you. I I just feel like there's just a level of respect that comes automatically. Not saying that you have to be at the mercy of his finances. However, like, you should definitely have your own, build your own. But I do feel like he has to financially lead the household. Absolutely. For me.
All right, let's go ahead and get into that then, because that's a very important question to ask here. He has to lead the household. Now, let me ask both of you ladies a question here. What do you think the median male income is in the United States?
Is it 70?
Okay. And Karen, what do you think the median male income is in the United States?
I have no idea. I kind of feel like it's lower though, lower than 70.
Okay. The median male income is about $52,000 or $54,000, depending on which survey you take a look at. It's around $52,000, $54,000. That's median. Now, that is not restricting for race, by the way. So if you have a racial preference, like myself, I prefer Black women. I only have Black women, so I guess that's a preference, isn't it? With that being the case, if you only prefer a certain type of race, that's only what you feel comfortable with, then that number goes down even more. So if you're not dealing with either white or Asian, that number is going to be significantly lower than the number I just gave. If you're dealing with median Black male income, it's going to be somewhere around $40,000, depending on what survey you look at, $40,000 to $42,000, somewhere around there. So with that being the case, in taking V into account first and foremost, he needs to make $150,000 a year. That is not taking into account literally any other factor, including his gender preference, sexual orientation. Now, let me ask another question here. What percentage of men in the United States do you think make more than $50,000 a year?
I have no idea.
Karen?
I don't know. I don't know. Most of the guys I meet make six figures, so I don't know. I don't know.
Do you think that's important?
I feel that that's only important if you're dating loosely. I feel like you're going to run in a certain circle and attract certain things. So like, if you're in a certain pool and you date a certain way, you're not going to have really that many people who are making the median income. Most men that approach me, they make 150, at least 100,000 a year or more. The average I would feel about is about 200. Honestly. Okay,
V, you're telling me most men who approach you make $100,000 a year or more?
Yes.
Does that include your DMs?
No.
Okay.
Come on.
Wait a minute now. Full disclosure now, ma'am. You need to tell the damn truth. Full disclosure. We got to count
DMs
that.
Don't count.
That goes into your ratio, ma'am. So we're going to count that also.
No.
Yes, we are.
I also think you have to consider the area. In California, you have to make a significant amount of money. The DMV area, you have to make a significant amount of money to survive here. Like it's just so the people we're going to run into are making pretty good money just because of the areas in which we live.
Okay, well, pretty good money is. What do you think the median male income in Los Angeles is, V?
I feel like it is definitely has to be higher. It has to be around the 70, 80 range, but I could be wrong because there's a lot of people with roommates. So I don't know.
All right. And Karen, what do you think the median income we'll just keep it down to Maryland. What do you think the median income in the state of Maryland is?
I don't know. I never bothered to look. I mean, because it's pretty, depending upon what county and where you're looking. I mean, I don't know. Like if you're looking in Baltimore, it may not be that high. You start looking at Montgomery County, you can start looking at some of the richest areas in PG County. Like it can be significant.
Okay, because there's a difference between the median individual or median household here. But basically for Los Angeles, if memory serves me correctly, it's going to come in somewhere around 60 or 70,000 if memory serves me correctly about that. State of Maryland's a little bit different. I want to say that number's around 50,000. I would need to Google it to be 100% certain, but if Los Angeles, if memory serves me correctly, it's going to be around $60,000 or $70,000. Now, while you're correct, that puts them above the national median. It certainly does. Problem for the men or people who make more than $70,000, more than $50,000 a year is going to be the bottom 80%. Makes $50,000 a year or less. The top 13% make $90,000 or more. That's the top 13% nationwide, not accounting for a geographic location. 100,000 or more, you've now restricted that to the top 8%. And when you get into 500,000 or 1 million, we're now dealing with only the top 2 or 1% of the whole total US population. So can we have a bit of candor, ladies? Thank you for the warm-up, but can we have a bit of candor? Karen, the ever so optimistic. If you met a man, or would you advise, even if you would advise a woman, if she met a man who had otherwise, quote unquote, good character, whatever in the hell that means, has, quote, good character, but he makes $50,000 a year, would you advise her to consider him?
I would ask her, how does she feel with him?
Okay, I didn't ask that. I said, would you advise her to consider him?
That is a consideration. That is telling her to consider how she feels with him. Sometimes it's not always about the money. So if he's treating her well, she enjoys his company, you know, he has a certain standard of living, you know, then yeah. If he was homeless or he didn't have any, like I'd be like, well, you know, have you considered that you might struggle? You know, so you would look at everything, but I think, you know, if he's making, you know, average income, he treats her well, it may be something to consider. Because I don't think that a good guy should just be passed up because he doesn't make a certain amount of money.
Okay, would you say that I don't think he should be passed up if he doesn't make a certain amount of money? However, would you advise one of your people, clients you talk to or whatever that you coach, would you advise her to date a man if she says, hey, Karen, I met a guy, he's nice, he's sweet, he's caring, he makes $42,000 a year?
Again, so people are always going to do what they want to do, right? So I'm going to help her
Karen,
discover. Yeah, I mean, because coaching is not about telling someone what to do. Like,
of course it is.
No, it's about showing the mirror. So I'm always going to have her look at her, like what we was saying in the beginning. It's who you're being. You attract where you are. So if who she is and she's solid in where she's at, and he is a match for that, and that's what he makes, then that's just what it is. If she's happy. Now, if she comes to me and she's complaining and she's saying all these things, then I would say, you know, it doesn't really sound like you're happy. We may want to explore some other things about this. But ultimately, at the end of the day, she's going to choose what she wants. And sometimes we have to learn hard lessons. And so she may have to fail at it. And that's her business, because everyone has to learn.
Now, you all know this. Karen, you have not yet said, yes, I would tell her certainly pursue it. You would tell her, can you be honest? This will actually raise your profile and raise your image better. Can you be honest how you would tell her not no, but hell no, come back when you're making 70,000. That's what you would tell her, is that his character and everything is great, but what type of life are you going to be able to live with him?
I wouldn't look. I think that is important, because I don't think it should be below where she's at. Her standard looks like she wouldn't go down to him. Of course not. So. Oh,
really?
Like she wouldn't lower where she's at.
Slow down. Okay. Slow down. Let me challenge that. Let's just say she looks like Vanessa, the ever so bombshell over there, and she makes $30,000 a year. Are you telling me that that if she met a guy who was making 80,000, you would tell her you need to lower your standards?
No, what I'm saying is, if she was making more money, so if he came to her and he was making 50 and she was making 80, like, if his place isn't that nice, if it's all like, she wouldn't change her standard of living to be with him.
Right. But what I'm saying is that her getting with him would change her standard of living overnight. Him getting with her, if it does change your standard of living, it'll be to the downward degree. Hopefully it doesn't get that far along, but that's the only direction you could go in. So when it comes to women, if the man's, I use the term productivity. I don't like income is one way of saying it, but productivity, because I think you all think of it the same way, that it's an element of your character. You know, if there's no way you're going to be able to be a high income person unless you came from a trust fund. And even then, you're not going to be very reliable because you don't have the work ethic involved to maintain it. So you're probably going to lose it. And nobody wants to get with a risky proposition who got it from somebody who was productive and now you're not. This is only a matter of time before this falls apart. So that's the reason why, if you're going to steer in that direction, you count that as a metric. For the woman, if they're a financial mismatch, you wouldn't tell her she shouldn't consider him because she's not qualified. She's not a match for him. But for a man, you would tell him, hey, if she looks like Vanessa, you could consider this.
So we're looking at okay. I don't think we look at all of that when we're in love. I don't think, maybe a guy judges all of that. I'm not quite sure. I'm not a guy. I don't know what they look at in terms of, you know, I don't know. I've seen some crazy things. So I really don't know. I don't know.
No, as a woman, can you truly love a man if his productivity is not on point? Is that even possible, Karen?
Can you love? I think you can love any, like, it doesn't, love is just love.
Karen.
I don't think you control who you may fall in love with, but I think you can control what you decide to do. Ultimately,
Lord, y'all, I swear, when I talked to her before, she wasn't like this. I swear she wasn't.
But love is love. I mean, I don't think, here's the thing. I'm not going to sit there and be like, okay, this guy makes 200,000. I love him. Like,
okay, but if he makes 20,000, you're going to say, I can't love him.
No, I might say I love him, but I don't know if this is going to work. 20,000, like, everything, inflation, like, everything is so expensive. Like, what are you going to do with
okay,
that?
So why don't you, okay, but if he's got a, quote, great personality and checks all the other boxes, the only unchecked box is that income box. That's it. He's not a financial drain. He lives very frugally. He doesn't have an Xbox habit. The only box not checked is that he makes a fourth. Let's just put this at the baseline right now. Everybody listening, we're just going to assume that the both of them make at least 100,000, that both ladies here make at least $100,000 a year. We're going to just assume that. Now, in your case, Vanessa, stop grinning because we know you're trying to floss. But let's just say you're with a guy who makes a quarter of that. Yes, I'm going to go down there. A quarter of that. He has no children. He has no drug habits. He's not like Jason Black. He's not this perennial jerk. He gets along with kids very well if you're willing to do that kind of thing. He's got all the other boxes except what he does for a living. He works at a home for lost puppies. He works at the kennel. He's a nice guy. He loves puppy dogs. He works at the kennel. He makes $25,000 a year. All other boxes are checked. The only thing is that $25,000, that's it. But literally everything else is in place. He looks good, smells good, talks good, loves your mom.
He's not driven enough. He's comfortable and complacent. That's not.
But don't you have the drive for the both of you? Doesn't he have all the other characteristics? What about that? You're not saying that that's an offset for his income?
I'm way too intense. No, it wouldn't work. We wouldn't even be able to like exist in the same space because I'm way too intense. Like I would get on his nerves.
Wait a minute. What about you? How does his money help him with your quote intensity? What is it about your intensity that requires money?
Because if I'm driven, right, to do a whole lot of things, and he's like, I'm just sitting, I'm good at the kennel, like we're a mismatch.
What about personality? Your personalities blend.
Our personalities would not blend.
How do you? I just said your personalities blend. The only thing is he doesn't have the income quotient.
But they wouldn't. I think I can respect someone for who they are and where they are. And you can actually, like, I can go on dates and they can be amazing. And usually they are. I've only been on like one horrendous date and he just didn't like the fact I had gray hair and I was divorced. But other than that, like I meet amazing men, but we may not be compatible all the time, and we may not be suitable, but it doesn't discount that he's an amazing person. But if I were in my like full intensity, like living life, how I cope, how I deal with things, like he probably wouldn't do well there because like with me, because I know me. And so if a guy is like not driven, he doesn't feel comfortable with me, because then he doesn't feel, I hate to say it, he won't feel manly, because then
there are plenty of men. There are plenty of men who are willing to be in a relationship with a woman and not sit up here and have their masculinity be challenged. You see it every day. Damn sure Vanessa sees it every day. There's plenty of men in her DMs who would be perfectly fine with her making $200,000 a year and letting her and his masculinity not be challenged. Am I lying, Vanessa?
No, that is absolutely right. But I feel that,
So you would be the one who would have the problem with it, not him.
Yeah, absolutely. I would have a problem with that.
Karen, you would be the one who would have the problem with it, not him.
I think if okay, long term, I don't think it would work. I think if his whole agenda was there, maybe to sleep with me and to have fun, he would not have a problem with it. I think long term, it would be an issue.
No, I'm talking about everything else is in place. Like, for example, everything else is in place, and about the windshield wiper thing, that when you wanted to replace the windshield wiper, he handed you the windshield wiper and said, knock it out, baby. And his manhood was not challenged at all. Y'all can roll, right?
I wouldn't want that. I just would not want him.
Wow. Okay. Now you all remember at the beginning, well, I mean, I want to take care of it. And he felt challenged by it. Okay. How about the guy who's not challenged? Oh no, he got to go too. Yeah. So what I'm saying, ladies, when you start going through it, you get a little more comfortable with it here. Karen, you wouldn't give the time of day. You would roll by him like roadkill. If he made less than $80,000 a year, you wouldn't even notice him, because number one, you want to know what is in this interaction with him for you. And you know full well that's without that, there's no tangible benefit. All the things the reason why you all are objecting to it, and you should be, is because everything I just named was an intangible. Personality, good character, kind, caring, good with children. Those are intangible things. You can't measure them. You can't touch them. You can't really, and the reason why measurement is so critical is because you can't tell whether his is more valuable than somebody else's. It's not like you can put your hands on it. So he can try to sell you on that, but you're like, okay, at the end of the day, yo, niceness, personality is as good as anybody else's. What else you got? And when you realize there's nothing tangible, now he wants sexual access to you. Now that's a tangible. That is something you can see and touch. And most fellas here want to see and touch. But other than that, that's the problem that you have. I'm going to get right back to you, V. I swear, because I got a question to ask you. Karen, can you just be honest? It's just between you, me, and a few thousand people listening to us right now. Don't, just between us. Ma'am, there's no way men who make less than $60,000 a year are invisible to you. Even no matter how he looks, I'm talking about no matter how he looks or how he approaches you, as soon as you hear that number, he becomes invisible.
No, I'm not going to say that's true. I'm not going to say that's true. I'm just going to say that who I am tends to attract men who, okay. So like my ex-husband, he was valedictorian of his high school class. He was valedictorian of our collegiate class, right? So he was really smart. He was very well versed with money. He had a good career. So I just tend to attract certain types of guys in specific, I guess, professions that make good money.
Karen,
it's not
Karen, I gotta confront that too. You keep saying that. You've been saying that.
What you're saying. It's entertaining, but the thing is, okay, so like I like to have an intellectual conversation. And
no, I'm saying that those are not the only men who approach you, Karen. No, they're not. Those are not the only men who approach you. Number one, you and I both know what's going on in your DMs. We ain't gonna talk about it in front of everybody else. You know what's going on in your DMs. You have to tell dudes, hey, back off.
I don't
You
tell them
literally have to
anything.
do
I
that.
don't respond.
Why don't you respond?
Because the way the approach.
If you had a bunch of entrepreneurs in your DMs, would you be ignoring them?
One, I don't know. I they're in my DM, so it's how they're approaching.
If you had a bunch of nothing but entrepreneurs in your DMs, Karen, would you be ignoring them?
I don't know. I just kind of feel like
Thank
a
you.
guy of that standard is not in your DMs like that.
Okay, well, Vanessa, have there been any entrepreneurs who make more than 6 figures in your DMs?
Yes.
You're both on the same Instagram, Karen.
Okay, I take that back. I have had people who make.
Okay, thank you. All right, there we go. There we go.
About that for a second.
Let me tell y'all right now, that's why I like Vanessa. Vanessa is truth serum. That is what she is. She is truth serum. And I can respect her honesty about everything except the single fathers thing. She knows damn well she wants a fella who all his money and all his time is reserved for her. No. Who else is going to pay for them French curls?
You're a mess.
Well, just because he has money doesn't mean it's a good catch, though. So it's not about
Karen, if you don't stop, you just ruled out the 80% of the male population because of their income.
It's not just about the money. That's the thing.
Pepto. Karen, you are the first chick who didn't look like an ox who's got me drinking my Pepto over here. Ma'am, you just said a moment ago that every other aspect of him wouldn't offset his income, that there's nothing that offsets it.
So here's the thing. When a man can't provide, I tend to realize that they have a certain way of being that is just really not fun to be with. When he does not feel confident, he doesn't feel confident with himself and his ability to provide, it becomes an issue. So, and it becomes a problem for me because I have to deal with his attitude.
Wait a minute. Well, no. There are plenty of men out there who have no problem living with you and not being the chief breadwinner in the house. Now, you know this. So there are plenty of men who are perfectly comfortable with you being the financial leader in the home. So how are you going to sit here and keep saying, oh, they wouldn't be comfortable? Don't you mean that you would make them uncomfortable?
I don't know. But from my experience of what I have dated thus far, and the men that I talk, they don't feel comfortable. They want to be able to, like, they have an ideal of how they want to lead, how they want to provide. And all I can do is respect that. So they usually rule themselves out. Typically, like, I don't have to. They rule themselves out because they want to feel a certain way about themselves. And I can respect that. I'm not going to force someone to be there.
You live in the DMV. There are plenty of dudes laying up on chicks. I mean, there's plenty of fellas out there who are underachieving who will approach you all the time. The only way that's not happening is if you're making it very clear, you're invisible to me. Women get approached 2 or 3 times a day. Now with social media, you don't even have to leave the house. You all get approached 2 or 3 times a day.
So it's about who you entertain, right? So if a guy's approaching me a certain way, I'm not entertaining it. If he's catcalling, I mean, it's all about the approach. So I'm just not going to stop. I might say hello, and I'm going to keep it moving. I'm not going to take the time to get to know him. I'm not asking him financial questions. It's not going anywhere. So it is about the approach. And I don't.
You're saying that you don't ask them. You're just saying you don't ask them.
Are not approaching women like that. They just don't. They know how to approach a lady a certain way. And if they don't, like, for me, it's a respect thing. So if you're not going to approach me correctly, I'm not entertaining you at all. I'm just.
You're saying that the only men who know how to approach a woman correctly are the ones who make
no, but figures. I'm saying so. If a guy is sending me certain types of emojis in my DMs and telling me how beautiful I am and all these different things, like it doesn't stop me to say, okay, let me go and know who this man is. I'm just not stopping my life to figure this out.
I'm glad you made that point there, Karen. Karen, men telling you how pretty they think you are, how much does that influence you?
It doesn't. So number one, when I first used to hear that word, it was very triggering for me since my childhood. So I had to overcome men just approaching me saying I'm pretty. So now it's just like, okay, they're giving me a compliment, and then I just move on. It doesn't mean stop. It doesn't mean get to know them. It doesn't mean they want more. Usually I can just stop and say thank you, and they feel pleased because they feel acknowledged and heard. Some women will just walk by, they'll say, oh, you're beautiful, and they'll just ignore them. So if it's in person, I do stop to acknowledge it. If you say something to me, whatever it is, I may acknowledge your words, but it doesn't mean I'm going to give you my phone number. We're exchanging anything. Human decency, I'm acknowledging that a human being has said something, but it doesn't mean more has to happen. So it makes there.
Vanessa, when a man tells you how pretty he thinks you are, just that expression as a singular element with nothing else taken into account, how much does that influence you?
Well, in person, they just get a thank you. A compliment is a compliment to me. It doesn't mean that you want anything else other than to compliment me. I compliment men. I call them handsome, all that other stuff, and I want nothing from them. But if it's in my DM, I'm not responding because of the annoying messages that is going to happen thereafter. But in person, it's definitely acknowledged. But it does nothing unless you like that person.
Okay, so in other words, from both of these ladies here, they're not hard on the eyes, and the both of you are acknowledging that a man telling you how attractive you are doesn't actually move the needle or influence you.
No. There's beautiful women everywhere. You're acknowledging
no.
level. That is obvious. Like, okay, we're attractive. A compliment for me that goes a long way, that's going to stop me in my tracks, is acknowledging my work ethic.
There are not beautiful women everywhere, ma'am. That is a lie from the pits of hell. There are not beautiful women everywhere. Okay, on your Instagram, there are. Yeah. On your Instagram page, there. Vanessa, V.
Yes.
Do you think that you are indicative of the appearance of the average American female?
I'm not impressed by looks.
I didn't ask you that. Second time for the prosecution. Do you think that your appearance is indicative of the average American female?
No.
Karen, do you think, even with your salt and pepper hair, do you think that your appearance and that $2,000 smile you got, I hope the orthodontist got all their money, do you think that you are indicative of the average American female?
I don't think I've ever thought that because I'm biracial. So I just kind of.
I'm so glad you threw that out there. Thank you very much. I'm glad I'm like Unicron. I'm pleased me to be the first. Karen, do you think that your appearance is typical of the average American female?
So here's what I would say. Again, it's like who you hang around in your circle, right?
What?
I see so many beautiful women. Like a lot of my friends are gorgeous. There are a lot of beautiful women out there. I mean, there's all types of women, all shapes, sizes, looks. So it comes down to preference. But I don't know. I think I'm like an average girl next door in terms of looks. I don't think, that I stand out that much, I guess, in my opinion.
Karen, okay,
I'm biracial, but I think
you keep saying biracial. Okay, she wants y'all to know she loves biracial.
People like highlight that because it's different. My hair's straight, like it's just one of those things. I have slanted eyes, so that comes up a lot. But I don't know like necessarily what the average woman, I guess, looks like. I see a lot of beautiful women. I do. There are other.
Beautiful defined as. Let me go ahead and show you something. Take a look at your screens right now. There's a picture up there right now. Do you all believe that what was on your screen right now is a group of beautiful women?
Yes.
Wait a minute. Let me go ahead and show this again. Which one of you said yes?
I said yes. That's a group of beautiful women. Absolutely.
Karen.
Yeah. So
now,
energy and a fierceness, they're confident in who they are.
Okay. So I'm glad to hear that. So if you think that those are beautiful women, you think that men are attracted to that?
Yeah, there are men that are
Yes.
attracted to that.
I think
What
I don't see men turn down women. In fact, I think you had on one of your podcasts, y'all have a range. Men have like a range of types on one of your podcasts. So like, I yes, it doesn't stop men from talking to any of those women.
Okay, thank you. What kind of men?
What kind of men?
The men who approach you, Vanessa, go for chicks like that?
No, because everybody has a
Thank you.
Everybody has a preference, but it does not mean that they're less than me because of
Oh,
an
Lord.
outside preference.
Here goes the sisterhood. Vanessa, the men who approach you, you know full damn well they would never, those women are invisible.
No, because I have an opposite lifestyle to that, and health-wise, I'm not.
Oh, really? So you think that the majority of men are attracted to unhealthy women?
Not necessarily, not majority.
Attracted.
Not majority, but they're all, a lot of those women who look like that are happily married with kids, right? And here I am single with kids. So you, like I said, it's a preference. To me, that doesn't matter to me.
Right. Like someone made a point, like on 600 Pound, you know, I don't even know the name of that show, but they're always in a relationship.
Right.
I'm single. They're in a relationship. Like,
okay, but there are plenty of women who are in relationships with broke men. Would you be sitting up here advocating that, oh, well, hey, those guys are beautiful too?
You're happy. That's what you want, though. It's all about preference.
So you think that a man who has his act together would be attracted to something like this?
I'm speaking for the masses, no, but there are men out there that would prefer that.
Thank you. Okay, well, we're not talking about the mass. I mean, we're not talking about the exceptions. The masses. You go take a look at all the females on Instagram who have 1 million more or 1 million followers or more and are majority male. How many of them look like Lizzo and company?
They don't. Not
okay, then let's please. I understand you gotta keep the sisterhood, y'all. I'm not even angry with them. I'm okay with the both of them. They had to say it. It's like politics. It's like Trump in West Virginia. Okay, I got to bomb on black folk while I'm here. I'm in West Virginia. They don't really believe what they're saying. What they just said now is just for female consumption. They don't actually believe it, but they're saying it for political purposes. They're like, look, if you got me on the record on camera, I can't say this the way I know it's true. So I'm not even mad at y'all. I know the game. Wink, wink. I got it. Okay, you have fulfilled your political obligations. Now, can we get to the real? You know full well you would never draw a dime from the male audience in general looking like that. Men don't want that. Those kind of females are invisible in your daily life at the grocery store. They got to put their own groceries in the cart. They got to put their own groceries in the car. Nobody holds the door for I bet you they were thanking the Lord when automatic doors were created because nobody holds a door for them. Nowhere, anywhere. If they have a flat tire on the side of the road, they just gonna be sitting with it. Nobody's gonna stop and help them out.
I wouldn't say nobody's gonna stop and then help them out because there's men out there that would.
But are these men who actually have options?
You know what? You have to speak for the men. I can't speak.
No. You've had no man. You're not a child. Let's be very clear. You in Southern California. We are not children. You've met enough men in your life. You know men with options. According to you, you bump into 2 or 3 of them a day, and I can buy that. You too, Karen. You all bump into men who got options all the time. According to you, they're the only ones who approach you. Why is it they're approaching you and not them? You know full well women like that are invisible. Talking about they're beautiful. No, they're not. Just like the guy with his low income, there is no offset for that. You are the only thing a man gets in a relationship with you. That's it. We don't get anything else. We don't get your money because you're not going to share it. We don't get your job because we don't need it. We don't get your social status. Glad you got all the followers you do on Instagram. It doesn't translate to us. The only thing a man gets in a relationship with a woman is you. That's all we get. So if the woman is deficient, he gets a deficient product. That's all he's got. What else does a man get in a relationship with a woman other than the woman, Karen?
So the list that men have provided, they get peace. Is that the woman though? I think any woman can give a man peace.
No.
No,
Okay,
I mean,
peace.
what I'm saying, it doesn't matter like size and all of that. Not every single woman, but it doesn't. Her physical appearance and all of that. A woman can still give a man peace.
How can a 400-pound woman give a man peace more than a size 6?
I don't know. Maybe
Karen, stop it.
I cater to him a lot better, probably than a woman.
Karen, do you think a size 22? Do you think a man considers a size 22 female to be more peaceful than a size 6?
I have no idea. I think you have to do a poll or something. I don't know.
I'm doing it right now. Do you think that there's any man who considers
I can't answer that. I don't know.
Okay, let's try this a different way. Is there any man in America, Karen, that you think that these women would be competitive against you with? That they could beat you in getting him? Any one of them? Do you think you would take a L? If these women wanted a man, do you think you would take a L if you were in the room to any of them?
Depends. Maybe.
So you think that you would lose against one of these chicks? If a man was in the room and he had a choice between you and one of these chicks up here, you think that you would lose?
I think it depends on, I guess, what the woman is offering.
No. Just at face value. He's looking at the two of you. He has the choice between the door on the left and the door on the right. Karen's the door on the left. Lizzo and company are the door on the right. So Karen says, I don't know if I would win in that preference.
Sometimes it depends. Sometimes it depends on what he's focused on. But I think a majority of the time I probably would win.
Thank you. Vanessa, this is really a formality, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Do you think that you would lose to any of these females?
No.
Any of them?
No.
Why not?
Why? I just have confidence in myself and the way that I move and the way that I am. And it could be somebody who is smaller than them, and I'm still gonna say I'm gonna win. So
okay, but are you saying that because you're just being hopeful, or are you saying that because you know what men want and you have a track where your life has proven it?
I feel that what I have to offer is typically what men desire. Yes.
Thank you. If men, regardless of income, regardless of age, regardless of any of that, ladies, y'all know full well that's what we're looking for. If a man has no other options, when you talk about a man settling, those guys that you all turn down in your DMs and everything else, you know full well, that when you talk about there are men who want that, the ones who don't qualify for you, the ones that you turn down, you're like, I banish you to the cow herd over here. I banish you to that. That's what you will have to select from is over there. And you know that. You don't think it's typical of it. I know you had for political purposes. I ain't mad at you. But you would never expect to lose to any of them if a man had a choice in that regard. You never expect to lose to any of them. Now, if a female is over the age of 30, I was very nice about this before. Nice is about to go out the window. Ladies, if a female is over the age of 30, does she have the option of saying no?
Yeah.
Saying no to what?
To whatever she doesn't want.
Exactly.
You have to be clear on what you want. You just don't run through aimlessly. Like, I know what I want, so I say no to things that don't serve me and aren't going to serve both ways.
Starting with his productivity.
1,000%.
Okay. Now, since for the number that you gave, I'm going to go ahead and do a stretch on that because of inflation or whatever, and just say that the top 8% are the 150,000. We'll just, for the sake of argument, we'll say we know it's actually 100,000, but we'll just go ahead and say that the 150,000 stretches to 8%. Got it. How many options does a female over the age of 30 have to get that?
For me,
In Southern California, where you live, Vanessa, how many women have the option of picking from the men that you're accustomed to?
I'm not going to say that it is many, like even if they are extremely attractive, because a lot of women lead with looks, even though you may say that a woman only has to offer is just her appearance. But I feel like once you reach a certain income threshold, there's a type of woman that you have to be, because he had to become a specific kind of man in order to make over a certain amount of money for the entrepreneurs that I date. So a lot of women don't work on themselves. They feel like looks are the all that they have to offer. So not many women can pull from what I pull.
Okay, but they all want it.
Absolutely.
You are in the most one of the, if it's not the most, it's the second most competitive market out there. When they're over the age of 30, for the men who have the kind of money that you're talking about, how many of them are looking to be with a chick over the age of 30 in Southern California? How many of them are saying, I prefer that? And how many are actually targeting younger than that?
Right. So I've actually had this conversation a lot, especially with a few of my male friends who are millionaires, who make well over, and they say that they tend to date down. And of course they would, right? Because a lot of people don't take care of themselves. A lot of women don't. So a lot of them do date from 23, and a lot of their cutoff is about 32, like early 30s.
Karen, for the people that you coach and talk to, do the men prefer, in your experience, do the women who are in their 30s and older, do they have more problems than the ones who are 30 and younger?
I think it depends on the guy. So usually a younger woman doesn't have the mentality, the conversation, or the experience um to stimulate him beyond physical appearance.
What do you think that men in that range prioritize?
So if they're thinking kids, they may not be thinking a 23-year-old. Maybe. I mean, fertility wise, like yes, she would be able to have children, maybe. But I don't know. Usually they said the mentality is just not there for them. That's been the number one complaint. Like they're usually into partying, not, at that age, they're just not stable. They're fun to be with, but they don't pick them because of the way they think at that age.
If you had to roll back the clock and you were talking to a female who was 26 years old, what would you tell her to prioritize in a man? Karen?
I prioritize in a man. See, I think I was taught to look at education, to look at income. I was taught that.
There you go.
I don't.
Women, has your life borne that out as a reliable metric?
I think So
have you found yourself to be that the lower the man's income is, the more unhappy with him you are?
I haven't really dealt with that scenario to be able to answer
Karen.
that question.
Karen, I would hate to see a lightning bolt just zap you into dust. I would hate to see that occur. So I'm gonna give her a second chance.
I'm trying to answer your question, and so like I can only speak from my experience. And so when I left my marriage, it was mainly to find myself. And so then when I found myself, I think a woman should get to know herself and be stable here and really be clear about who she is and what she wants before willing to allow a man to come in her space. I wish I had known that when I was 20, because I met my husband when I was 18. We started dating when I was 19. We were together up until I was 33. So
okay, but you used that phrase before, know what you want. What did you think that she should be prioritizing and wanting in a man when she's 26? What do you think will give her the best outcome for herself?
So if she had to look at things, I would say, is he financially stable? Because she's going to be wondering about security and safety. That's going to be something that's going to concern her, especially if she's looking to have children. Will she be taken care of? The next thing, and I don't know if I prioritize that, would be his ability to be emotionally available. And I found that to be really extremely important. And it's nothing like being in a relationship where you feel like you're alone. Having a physical body there doesn't mean anything if he's not connected with you. And so, because, like you said before, women tend to come together and we love connecting. If a man is just providing money, and he's not there, he's not protecting her emotionally, then what's the point? Because then she's going to be like, why am I here? Who am I? She's going to lose herself because she's going to be sitting there trying to get something that he cannot give her.
Okay, what is it exactly she's looking for him to, quote, give her?
So when I look at emotional intent, I'm looking at vulnerability, intimacy. Not every man has the ability to hold a space for a woman to emote and share, and equally him to be able to share. So when a man doesn't have an outlet, it looks like outbursts. It looks like aggression. It looks like him being stonewalling. It looks like he's absent. It looks like he's a workaholic. It looks like he's just not there. So, and those things are important for a family unit. It's important for the children. It's important to for your sense of belongingness as a human being.
Okay,
income is not everything.
Well, no, income is not everything. However, for you all, it's a deal breaker. So let's deal with that first. It's a deal breaker. However, you said here before that a woman could be perfectly happy and fulfilled by herself, and that even in your case, why you prefer being the way you are now, because, quote, I don't have to put up with nobody. And yet you're saying that a woman in a relationship with a man who is, quote, emotionally unavailable, that she would lose herself as a result of his unavailability. So which one is it? A woman can be perfectly fine, basically being isolated by herself, or she will lose herself, which is what I said at the beginning there. She will lose herself if that man is not available physically or emotionally.
Yeah, she will feel alone and she will feel drained. She won't feel like she has a partner. So it's important to have that. But here's the thing, if she's attracting an emotionally unavailable partner, she's emotionally unavailable. So there's something that she needs to deal with. So it still comes back to her finding herself. And had I known that, like, I didn't know. So I think there's a lot of things when you don't know, you just don't know. It's a blind spot. And then when you become aware, then you choose to do different. You make different choices. And so the person that I am now, like, I wish I could go back and talk to younger Karen and say, hey, do therapy, deal with your daddy and mommy issues before being, deciding to be with a man. Like, my husband was emotionally unavailable. And then it got to a point where I was just sitting there like, I don't know why I'm here anymore. I don't like this. I got the entire life that I had asked for. I got married by a certain age. We had a house. We were on our way to have children. And I was like, literally, like, I said I wanted this when I was 14 years old. And I'm here and I'm not happy. And I kept saying to myself, well, when this happens, and I realized it wasn't coming. And there was really nothing this man could do because I needed to go work on me. So I would say to the woman to make sure before she even looks for a man, she's got to be solid here. Because if she's looking for him to complete her, if she's looking for, to be loved because her daddy was absent or he didn't give her the love that she needed, like, she's not going to find that fulfillment because she's going to attract a man that is exactly like her past. She's going to attract a man that's like her father, someone who's emotionally unavailable. And she's going to be working so hard to prove something, working so hard to do all these things that she's not standing in her feminine energy at that point. She is tired and she is drained. So I think for women, they have to look at certain things a different way. Now, you can have, and some women will say, that if they had a certain experience growing up and they're like, well, money, because I've seen so many bad things happen. There's so many women I've talked to, they're like, they expect their husbands to cheat. They're like, there's no such thing as loyalty. It's expected. And so they should sit back and allow that to happen because it's normal. But in the inside, she's torn apart. But she has to accept that. So,
okay. But Karen, about his availability there, I want to come back and ask you about that. I want to come back and ask you about that. Let me get Vanessa in here first, but I want to come back to you and ask you about specifically what you just said. Vanessa, we roll the clock back to 26-year-old V. We won't even ask what she looked like back then, by the way. 26-year-old V, what are you telling her to prioritize in a man?
That's actually around the age that I got my divorce. So for me, I left because lack of ambition paired with results. So a lot of men can say that they want certain things. So I would say focus on, because a lot of men aren't fully in their career at that age, like the average man isn't. So I would say just somebody who is driven and is getting the result, not just talking about it, so that you can build and grow with that person.
Okay, so not ambitious enough, i.e. not productive enough,
Right.
i.e. V is trying to live well in Southern California, not just live in Southern. That's a good comfortable. She wants to live well in Southern California. We see those cabinets back there behind you, ma'am. We see them. We see them. All right, your camera view ain't that restricted. We see them back there. She wants to live well in Southern California. Nothing wrong with that. So let me ask you a question here, V. How much leverage does a woman have in Southern California over the age of 30 to insist on a man who is productive, good character, emotionally available, and monogamous?
Oh, that's a good question, because monogamy requires discipline of a man. And I feel that a lot of men lack discipline and they're not really required to. It's more accepting for them to cheat. So I feel like adding that in there, the pool, no matter the age range, is a whole lot smaller. But that's why I said a man that works on himself and learns how to discipline that part of him is what's key, which is why I specifically date a certain kind of man.
Okay, can you get a man who's knocking down $250,000 a year and you're able to insist that you be his only option?
Absolutely. You can.
How do you impose that on someone who has so many options?
Because we both get to choose, right? So if he says no, I say bye. Like there's this thing I feel like people forget that women get to choose too. We both have wants and needs, and to prevent any of us being not having our needs met, we have the option to say no. Not only what the man wants matters, and I feel like getting that clear in the beginning, like I have the things that I want. If not, I can say next, and I will say next.
So you're saying that monogamy for you is a deal breaker?
I feel that in the
Thank you.
if you're in the beginning stages and you can't be monogamous, to me, that's a red flag. Now you're reckless. That's going to translate to many other different parts of your life. It's not just sexually. That's a reflection of many things. Now, if I'm married and we have years in, I feel that there's things that can be worked through, but I don't feel like I'm going to go into something expecting to be cheated on.
Okay, well, let's try this a different way, though. You're using the word cheated. That's great. But cheating has a definition different for men and women.
Fair.
Because if you have a faithful loser, as it were, you have a faithful a guy who is a faithful underachiever, Mr. Faithful, $30,000, $40,000 a year. He's endlessly faithful to you, V. He adores you. Every other woman on the planet is invisible to him. That would satisfy that requirement of emotional availability and security for you, would it not?
No.
Okay. Now we have the individual, Mr. $500,000 a year.
Right.
He is nice. He's cordial. He's a good look for your parents. They love hanging out with him. He's able to talk to your dad about skyscrapers and engineering. Your friends love him. It's, ooh, girl, where did you find him? And he sometimes disappears once a year for a week.
Once a year for a week.
He sometimes disappears once a year for a week, and you're not really sure about his whereabouts. But all those other things I just said are in place. Right. Is that, and yeah, by the way, she messed around and the other woman accidentally texted him while you were there. Is that a deal breaker for you?
Absolutely, it is. Because like I said, I don't need to be in a I don't need to have a relationship that bad to where I'm willing to sacrifice my own feelings in the process, no matter how much money, no matter how amazing that man is. To me, that man is not amazing if he feels like he needs to satisfy certain urges elsewhere. Sorry.
Vanessa,
The
you do
expectation
realize you're on
I have to
camera,
be
right?
faithful.
You do realize you're on camera and recorded, right? The whole
Yeah.
world is seeing you say this. You're literally sitting up here telling us that in Southern California, if you met Mr. $500,000 a year, monogamy is a deal breaker.
Absolutely. I have left a situation like that. Yes.
Why? Okay, who was that? Your ex-husband?
I just left somebody that I was dating who moved that way. It wasn't worth it to me.
Was he knocking down 500 G's?
More.
And that was a deal breaker for you.
Yep.
Everything else was in place, but that was a deal breaker.
Absolutely.
Was it because he spent more, equal or more money on the other woman?
Oh, I had no idea how much he was spending.
That
Nor
doesn't
do I care, because that's not a reflection of me. It's a reflection of him feeling inadequate.
Okay, but what I'm saying is that if you have his financial and social fidelity, you're saying that you also must have his physical fidelity.
Absolutely. I can have it all.
Can you repeat that one more time? I didn't hear, my earphones glitched for a moment here. I can swear I just heard you say, quote, I can have it all. I know my earphones glitched. What was that last part again?
I can have it all. Everything that I want, I can have.
Okay, I thought my earphones were glitching. Apparently I'm going schizophrenic is the issue. V, I'm going to say this straight out, and you know I adore you.
That's
you
fine.
are precious. V, you are in your 30s with 2 kids.
Yes.
You can have it all?
Yes.
I don't care what's happening on your Instagram. Brittany Renner can't have it all.
I can have it all.
How you figure that?
Oh, I'm not asking for too much.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not. And I feel like what is so crazy is that the standard for men is so low, but the standard for women is so high.
Wait a minute. You put an income standard on us. You think that's low? All you have to do is keep excess body fat off of you.
But a man can come to you and say that he wants X, Y, Z, and it's accepted. But the woman utters the fact that she wants X, Y, Z. Oh no, baby, lower your standards. You have 2 kids. My dating pool is just smaller, but my standards are not lower.
Okay, but the problem is what you're asking from a man is different from what he's asking from you. That's the problem. What's being asked of us is so much more. We have to be ultra productive, because you all are like, no, in a modern world where you all can make $1 million a year just posting pictures on the internet, a man still has to exceed that, which means we have to be genuinely productive. Your pictures on Instagram, nice as they are to look at, thank you for them abs, that's not going to build a skyscraper, the office building, the house that you're in right now, the cabinets, those were built by men. So we have to do real work, actual work and labor to get half the results that you get as a woman, and yet you still say that we got to do exponentially more than you do to satisfy even being attractive to you. So if we have to do, you know full well that the $500,000 he make is a whole lot more effort than you have to put in for it to get the same thing. He can't show some thigh and some cleavage and there's a female out there willing to do something for him. So he's got to do all of that. He's got to be the best version of himself. He's got to sit up here and work hard. He's got to outdo 92% of the male population. He's got to sit up here and be Mr. Mom, Mr. Dad, and be on top of all of that, get exclusivity from you. I mean, to you.
It's so hard to be faithful. Why is it so hard to have one woman? I don't get it. Like, it's weird how that's what men get caught up on.
So, Jason, why did you have to draw the line right there when it came to him being faithful? Now it's like we're asking too much. Like, I don't understand.
Because because sexual access and sexual companionship are givens for females. That's why you all said that even Lizzo and the Big Bat Crew can sit up here and get a man. Well, what you really mean is that there's somebody out there who is willing to do that. Sexual access for men is not nearly as easy as it is for you. Case in point, I got females in my DMs too. I don't think I got as many females as you do males. I don't think you do. And in your case, Vanessa, I know for a fact, you got dudes with washboard abs in your DMs. So as far as sexual activity, you got the pick of the litter. What you're saying is, yeah, I'm swimming in that. I can be pickier, so I don't have to settle for that. I got sexual access coming out of my curly hair. I don't need to settle for that. For you, that would be settling. For the average man, that isn't. For the average man, that takes work to get what you two wake up to every morning. He's got to be the best version of himself. He's got to work hard. He's got to get up at 8 and go to bed at 12 midnight. It takes a lot more effort from us to get the same results that you take for granted.
But we're not looking at that, though. We're looking at being in a relationship. And so why is he seeking more? Why
because
is he
you are,
another
because
woman? Is he insecure? Like,
no,
why
no,
does he need more women?
No, because of everything that you said there before. Your priority with a man is his ability to, quote, protect and provide. That's the priority. If that doesn't get done, you can't even feel any type of permanent or long-lasting connection to him. So for you, that's a requirement. He got to have that. So if it takes a lot of work to get that.
But if he's stepping out, he's failing to protect. He's bringing disease.
No. Okay, we're not talking about the dudes in the NBA. We ain't talking about that. We're talking about sensible, real world people, not the dudes in the NBA. We're not talking about that. Hey, those folks there passing around STDs and bastard kids. No. We're not talking about those. What I'm talking about is a fellow with some sense. Let's be very, very clear. V, you know full well there's a bunch of dudes with no kids in your DMs, but they don't want monogamy. Right. And Karen, there's dudes in your DMs. And they don't want monogamy. They have no kids, no diseases, but they also don't want monogamy. And you're saying they tell you how beautiful you are. Yeah, they're invisible to you if you're saying that's a deal breaker. For men, we're giving up something. You as a woman are not giving up anything because here's the thing. Neither one of you two are single. Neither of you. You're never single. Never, ever. No, you're not. You know, I'm telling the damn truth. Vanessa, you have not been single. The whole reason, let me ask one question here. Both of you two were married, correct?
Right.
Who filed the divorce?
Me.
Why did you feel safe enough to be able to file divorce after 2 kids, Vanessa?
Honestly, I did not feel safe. I felt like
No. I mean, why did you feel safe enough to re-enter the sexual? You knew full well, hey, I'm going to be re-entering the sexual marketplace. I have a man and I'm about to give that up. Why did you feel so safe to be able to do that and take that risk?
Because it was an effort for me to build the life that I wanted for myself. I wasn't thinking about it from me getting into a marriage again. Honestly, I was like, I probably won't be married again until my kids are out of the house.
So I suggest you don't wait that long, but go ahead. You'll be over 40 by then, so you might want to step that timetable up a little bit. But Vanessa, you wouldn't have done that if you didn't know with certainty. You've already expressed before. You knew with certainty if you re-entered the sexual marketplace, you'd be able to drag home whatever, for the most part, what you preferred. You knew that.
No, I did not look the way that I was overweight when
Okay, but you wasn't Lizzo. You wasn't Lizzo, man.
I wasn't Lizzo, but I wasn't the woman that I was overweight. I was 180 pounds. That's overweight for my frame. So I didn't feel like I was dateable. So no, that's not how I had moved. Me now, I'm not the same person that I was before.
Okay, you were a little chunky, yes, but you wasn't Lizzo built. So no. my real point is you divorced him because you didn't think, okay, I'm gonna be stuck with Bookman. You didn't think that was going to happen. You knew you had options.
I was poor. That's not where my mind was. I was literally living in my car. So let's not go there.
Well, somebody was slipping there if that was happening there. But my point about it here is, don't choke over there, please. My point about that is that you knew for a fact what your options were. Let's be clear. When the day that you filed for divorce from your husband, did you have no other men at all who were interested in you?
Oh no, men were interested, yeah, but not of quality. But not of quality.
Okay, quality for a woman is different than quality for a man.
Okay.
And that's my point, Karen. You don't have to sit up here and be the stuff that takes real work, competence, which is what you're talking about before, masculinity, which is that protector and provider, being a resourceful individual. Those are all character traits and skills that take years to build. Hopefully they start as kids, but if they don't, oh hell, he's going to do it as a man. That takes a lot more work than being feminine. That takes way more work and effort to master that.
I don't think that's true. I think so. A woman, so femininity, it takes a lot of patience. It takes a lot of biting tongue. It takes being smart about how you approach things. It's not easy. It's not easy.
And we live.
It's easier than being a masculine man.
I don't think so.
Have you tried being a masculine man?
I think we equally make it hard on each other for no reason. We really do. It like being in a relationship and a partnership can be really simple. And then I don't know why we have to struggle and have these power struggles.
I do.
I don't care to engage. Like as soon as a man comes to me like that, like it's no. It's just no, because I don't have time to fight you. Life is already hard. I don't have time to fight you.
Okay, here's the thing. In a relationship with a woman, you all get a bunch of perks. The woman gets a bunch of perks and a bunch of freebies. You don't have to pick up your own groceries. You don't have to hold the door. If something in the house needs to be repaired, nobody's handing you a hammer and saying, get to it. You would be insulted and mortally offended if they did. You get, when you go on vacation, Vanessa, you ain't expecting to pay a dime despite your own income. You're not expecting to pay anything. If you're in a relationship with a man, you're expecting to get your hair done, your nails done, and new outfits. You're expecting all of that to happen. You expect it to occur. For the man, the only thing he gets in a relationship with a woman is the woman. He doesn't get any of those extra freebies. So monogamy is asking much more of him because he gets none of the freebies that you get. Case in point, it makes lower income.
Woman, but it almost makes it seem like the woman has no value.
Right.
No, that's not what I said.
Conversation's going because, like, if he's getting you, like, to give someone all of you, the vulnerable part, like every aspect of you, like that's not easy. And that's not something you don't give that to everybody.
But he doesn't get all of you, Karen. You know why we know he doesn't get all of you? Because when you were married, did you have a 2-level house?
Had a 4-level house.
Thank you. She had an apartment building, y'all. In any case, if something went bump on the on the first floor, did he ever nudge you and say, hey, Karen, go down there and see what that is?
He probably would say, come with me.
Okay, my point is, first of all, I see why you got divorced if that happened. But second of all, y'all, I think we just found out what happened in her first marriage. I think she just slipped up and let it out. My point is, if something goes bump in the night, you're going to be mortally offended if he nudges you and says, hey, Karen, I heard something downstairs. You want to check on that? You would be mortally offended. You know why? Because you have the expectation that literally, if one of us is gonna die, he's the volunteer. He's going to have to do that. Not you. You will not lift a finger, including to preserve your own life. You expect him to do that even at the cost of his own. And Vanessa, we damn sure know you do. So I don't even have to ask you. So my point is, a man doesn't get all of you. Fellas out there listening, by the way, I hope I gave you the explanation. He doesn't get all of you the way you get all of him. He has to sacrifice. He is expected to sacrifice much more than you. The statement I just made, if something goes bump in the night, are you going to go out there and go risk your life while he sits in the bedroom in safety?
Okay. Let's just stop that right there, because here's the thing. Men and women provide things in different areas, but it's very much so well equal. But it just shows up differently in a relationship, right? So a man needs security as well at home with you, and he's going to provide that to you in a different way. So
what is equivalent to saving your life?
I'm not going to like have a equal comparison, but many men want different things.
Thank you. There is no equivalent to saving your life.
But he may need to be nurtured, right? Some men just don't want a warm body there at home.
Okay, but he can be John. He can be John Damn. He can have the sensitivity of John Damn Rambo if he's willing to save your life. This isn't equal. Especially when you expect he must do it.
But we're willing to produce life for him, which puts our life on the line.
But only if he wants kids. Only if he demands children. If he doesn't, then what?
Okay, you're asking. Most men want kids. Most men.
Actually, the problem is that most of us as males today, and by the way, I'm well informed, most of us don't have kids, which is another story here. In reality, the men that you prefer to deal with who have more sexual options, you tend to find that. But in reality, that number actually is far different. The thing is, the requirements are not the same, nor are they equal. Men carry much more of a burden than women do. There is a far higher burden on us. Starting with that, if a man is attacking you, you would be offended if your boyfriend or husband is sitting there talking about use your judo, see if you can put him in the Shuriken, see if you can go ahead and put him in the Kimura. That's my point. You would be like, look, if I survive this incident, this is the last time I will ever see this fella. I will never accept that. And if his life were in danger, you would be offended if he did not step in. You require him as a man to risk his life for you. No one is requiring you as a woman to risk your life for him. There's no equivalent. So what I'm saying is what's asked of us as men and women is far different for each other. The financial situation, you don't care if he works himself into a heart attack. If he doesn't come through the door with more money than you make, you don't care what the cost is for him.
No, and I think that that's the misconception, because a lot of people feel like whenever somebody says that they require this certain income requirement, they think that it means by any means, like running yourself into the ground. I would never ask a man to do that.
Then why do men live such shorter lives than women? Because we work harder and do more and run ourselves to the ground sooner.
That's the wrong partnership.
But that's the way it is.
Too much of themselves.
But we have to, because Vanessa wants a man who makes in the top 8%.
And I make in the top 8% then.
But we don't have the tools you do.
Partnerships. You guys are choosing wrong.
Okay, so where do we find a Vanessa that is willing to accept us making $80,000 a year?
There are plenty out there.
Yes, you're correct. But I'm asking you, where are they?
We have to find them.
Oh, we know exactly where they are, but did you all hear the way she was stuttering? Now, she knows where they are, by the way. She knows where they are. She doesn't want to say what it is. Vanessa, we know where it is. on the college campuses. They're 22 and 23 and 24. As you all get, here's the great irony of all of this. As you all get older, you get more demanding as you get older. When you are younger, you're much easier to deal with. But amazingly, as women get older and their sexual market value actually begins to depreciate, they actually become more demanding. And there's the great contradiction of it. At this point right now, you know full well a female in her early 20s is like, okay, she's going to be much more competitive, but you've got far more requirements than she does. Not a little bit more, way more.
She's going to learn probably the hard way whether it works for her or not. So an older woman, she has experience, she has standards. It took time to evolve, to figure out who she is, what she wants, and what she will not tolerate. Because we value our peace of mind, just like a man does.
Well, what's the benefit to the man of your, quote, evolution out of that state?
So here's the thing. A woman that's at this point, what we're speaking to is that partnership. She is bringing something. She will bring ease to his life if he allows her to. The problem is that most men won't allow a woman to actually stand in her feminine power and bring something to the table. He wants her to be pretty. He wants the trophy wife. He wants her to be mute and not say anything because he doesn't want to be challenged to grow.
Okay.
Relationships require growth.
Define standing in your femininity.
So when a man finds a great woman, he evolves. He evolves financially. His life is easier. He's not stressed out. A man is stressed out when he's trying to impress a woman. He doesn't have a partner. He's working on his own.
Okay, you think that making $150,000 a year is not stressful? Show me the non-stressful way of doing that.
It is, okay. So it's a mindset and a mentality.
Really?
It's the same actions. Right. But if you put the words, these actions are hard, your current world is hard.
But you're putting a labor requirement. But you're putting a labor requirement on him. That's not something open to interpretation. That's a labor requirement. When you put a number on it, he's got to work to get that. He doesn't have the ability to circumvent that labor requirement. That's not easy to do.
Define the labor? So when a man is making that type of money, what does the labor? Because it sounds like you're trying to say he's doing manual labor, and I don't think a man is making that type of money is doing manual labor. He might be doing mental labor.
Okay, first of all, as women, when you have men making that kind of money, there's a reason why 80% of the population of men makes $50,000 a year or less. If making that kind of money that Vanessa has grown so accustomed to were easy to do, then 80% of the population of men would be doing it. In reality, for the men that you two target, only 8% of the population of men are doing it. The other 92% aren't able to do it. Now, why do you think it is that 92% who have all the same access and everything else are failing? Do you think it's because they're just not trying hard enough? Or do you think it's because that top 8% who also tend to live less, well, they tend to live more if they can make it through it? If they don't, oh well. Why do you think it's so hard for the bottom 92% to get there?
They just don't want it. And it has a lot to do with the mental. And here's the thing, we're not requiring that. That's something that they already make.
Wait a minute. No. You are requiring that because Vanessa, you know full well, the men know, hey, if I want a chick like Vanessa, I have to do this. So it's not something that you have to ask for. You know full well, this was established thousands of years ago. If you want Lizzo, you can work. If you want Lizzo, you can work at Five Guys. If you want Vanessa or Karen, you have to come at the top 10%. We already know this because we've been meeting Vanessas and Karens our whole lives. It's not like they all didn't say the same thing. The message is loud and clear. You don't have to say anything to him, V. He already knows.
But that's on him because you have to live your life for you. I feel like the men who make less than that is by personal choice, or they lack the dedication and discipline in order to build to that. So, but it's not like they're like, oh, to me, I don't feel like a man is building something like that just to say like, oh, I want to date that kind of girl. I could be wrong, but I just like, that's something that they do for themselves so that they can have a certain quality of life. That's
okay, but the real thing is, what if he's happy with a simpler quality of life, Vanessa?
He's allowed that.
Thank you, but you're saying that you're going to penalize him for that.
But he doesn't need to date me.
Okay, but you're saying it would be different if you were an outlier, but you're not. You are typical. You are not an outlier, and you know it. That's why you got a flat stomach and wide hips, because you know, hey, there's benefits that come with that. I'm not an outlier. You know what it takes to be competitive.
I'm healthy. That's what I focus on. But what I'm trying to say is that we all have choices. If we want to live a certain lifestyle and you're attached to that, you're going to do the work that is for that. But I don't want, if men are motivated strictly by women, which I feel like they're just motivated by being impressing other men. That's why they do a lot of things.
You've been hanging out with too many athletes. I'm just going to say it right now. You've been hanging out with too many athletes. This is something California did. Ma'am, you've been around too many athletes. That's not the way that typical men, average men roll. So we can understand that's what you target because you have that income requirement and that status requirement. That is not the average, median, or typical male. It just isn't. The males who are visible to you, that is the ones who are not invisible, that you don't just discount out the gate, that's not the way that they move. The ones who are visible to you, that's the way they move. The ones who are not, that other 90% of the population, that's not the way they move because they can't.
Maybe that's why many feel that a woman can only provide herself because they're over here chasing a goal just to obtain a woman. And maybe that's why that perception is that way. But if you're doing it for the right reasons and building and growing, you know that a woman adds so much more value. I feel like a man in a relationship actually holds a higher social status. He is trusted more, especially in business. A single man doing business, you're not as trusted in that realm. But as soon as you show that you have a wife and family, your market value goes up. So with that being said, if you're doing it just solely for a woman, of course, you're going to feel like a woman can only provide herself. But if you're doing it for yourself, then you know that a woman can only add value.
That sounds good in theory, but it can't be a choice when 90% of the women like yourself disqualify them right out of the gate. It's not a choice then. He can't choose to make that decision to be that resourceful and productive when he knows, when you all have made it clear, 90% of the men are invisible. That's not a choice anymore.
I feel like that has to be cleaned up. So I think Vanessa had opened up, you attract where you are. You just
no, you don't. That's not true either, by the way, but go ahead.
But here's the thing, like it wouldn't work. And I think that's what you're not acknowledging. Like if you were a certain way, you attract, it's like an energy thing. You attract where you are, you attract who you're being. If I choose to be a person of like integrity, to honor my word and to like show up, like you're going to attract a person that is like that. You're not
people who are honorable and honest attract liars and con men, or should I say con women every day.
Allow it to stay there. That's
okay, but you said attract. But you said attract. People attract the opposite of themselves all the time.
So yes, it's there, but but you don't keep it in your space, because as soon as you see it, it's not what you want. It drifts away. You don't allow it to stay there. You don't keep it.
As an ideal, that sounds great, but the bottom line is people who are not resourceful, men who are not resourceful, follow men who are resourceful around every day. So just because you are straight, just because you got your act together, you actually will attract more people who are not. Case in point, Vanessa, do you think that you have more men who are as productive as you are or greater trying to talk to you? Or do you think there are more men who are less productive than you are who would like to get or have been trying to get your attention?
Absolutely. People who are less productive have more time to chase, right? And send these messages. So, but I do feel like you're going to attract everything. It's just what you allow in. But men of low productivity, they have nothing but time to sit on Instagram and send multiple DMs to multiple women.
And I'm not going to say that a person has low income, they're not productive. I think we need all different types of people in society. Not everyone.
I agree. I agree, but you all don't.
So it's necessary for society to operate.
Yes, it is. Absolutely. It certainly is. Problem. Women as a group, 80% of you, those guys are invisible. They're undesirable. Literally, there was a study that was put out a year or two ago that said that for most men who make $50,000 a year or more, they are economically undesirable to women.
So for me, I'm not looking at the finding intellectually. I'm stimulated intellectually. And a lot of guys aren't able to communicate and hold a conversation and talk about different subject matters. There are some, and they don't necessarily, I just feel like that's also a smaller pool.
Well, you're absolutely right. I think people who can think are a much smaller pool than people who make money, because somebody can make money as a porn star and be a complete dolt. So that I agree with that part there. As a man, that's going to be required of us. I want to ask you both one question here that you touched on here before, Karen, and I said I want to get back to this. You said that you were married and that you had everything you wanted in that marriage, and yet you initiated the divorce. And you said, I don't know what's wrong with relationships today. And I told you, I do. Can we just admit that we have progressed to a point in society now where women today just can't be pleased? You can literally give them everything, that 100-point checklist they have of things. Once you give it to them, they immediately become dissatisfied with it. If they got a bad boy, they want Mr. Straight. Soon as they get Mr. Straight, they want a bad boy again. If they can get a bad boy and Mr. Straight, they want a woman. Have we progressed to a point in society where women today just cannot be pleased, and it's always going to be a dissatisfaction?
We could argue that men are the same way. If you need to find multiple women, then you are not pleased. You are not satisfied.
If you want multiple women and you have them, you're pleased.
It's about what you value, right? And so at the end of the day, the material things, although they're great, they're not everything to me. It's just not. And so
it's a deal breaker.
I valued myself, and what I couldn't find in the marriage was a space to be Karen, like a space to be me. We were actually incompatible. But what I focused on, because at that point in time, I'm still goal oriented, but I was focused on, I want to get married. I want to meet this timeline. And so I am a type of person with that intensity. I will do what it takes.
You were compatible enough to get married.
But I had to be someone other than me.
Really?
Honestly.
I don't think you've ever been anything other than you in your entire life,
So
Karen.
who
I
I am
think you've been
now,
you since you were 8 years old. I literally don't think you've ever been any different.
so here's the thing. I think there's a difference when I in the past 6 years, me finding myself. So what I was finding, what I was inauthentic. What I was a culmination of what everyone told me. This is how life should be. And I agreed to it. So I had to honor and acknowledge I agreed to that, and that's who I was then, but it didn't feel right. It wasn't who I was. And then I took on learning me. What does Karen like? What does Karen want to do? Like, it wasn't about, I no longer was focusing on serving a man. I was raised to serve a man. This is what a woman does to get a man. I was groomed that way. You cook, you clean, you cater. I have no problem doing that. But at the same token, what I didn't find was he wasn't catering to me in that same, it wasn't equal. It wasn't the same. And I lost me because I wasn't putting any focus on Karen. And what does Karen need? I was too busy focusing on the marriage. I was too busy focusing on serving him to make sure he was good. And I had to learn that I'm my responsibility. I'm not his responsibility. He cannot fulfill me in certain areas. That's my job. And so when I got that, it's like I had to learn those lessons that I didn't learn before I got married and I got in a relationship. My life became the relationship. I literally at 19 years old went from a 19-year-old, I'm gonna say basically a child, to then stepping into like a wife. I didn't even know what is a girlfriend. What does those roles look like? It like literally just stepped into being a wife and serving. So I didn't have time to figure out who Karen was. And then I wanted to know me. I wanted to do things that he didn't want to do. He didn't want to share those things. And I realized what was important to me was having a partner that enjoys doing the things that I like to do.
You want to do things that he didn't want to do, such as?
It was funny. It was as simple as going ice skating. He didn't like the same activities. He didn't even want to try because I might hurt myself. And so it was very limited that I had a partner. We could do all the things he loved to do. But when it became what does Karen like to do, he wasn't willing.
Outside of sex, what were the things that he wanted to do that were so special?
I don't know. Life was nothing. It was boring. So he was focused on finances. My husband was a master saver. Okay. He was like, we're not splurging on vacations. We're going to make sure that we do things. It was very economical. It was very logical. We didn't buy like throw pillows for the house. Like, he's like, why would you do it? It's not practical. We're not spending money on decorating the house so it's all frilly and pretty. He was very goal-oriented. He was about saving money. He was about making sure we were good when we're old. And I was like, we're young and I want to live now. So
she penalized him for it. He was financial. With all these dudes out here who are financially reckless and irresponsible, she had one who wasn't. He was focused on her. By the way, was he monogamous?
He was.
He was financially faithful, socially faithful, physically faithful, intellectually faithful, and she rewarded him with a divorce because he wouldn't go ice skating, y'all. I'm not making this up.
It's not the ice skating. Ice skating, it's not the ice skating. It was about sharing things that I was interested in. Anything that he deemed as risky, he didn't want to do. It became all the things he wanted because I created the foundation of serving him, following him, submitting to him.
And what's wrong? And what is wrong with that when he's socially faithful, financially faithful, physically faithful, and future faithful? What's wrong with that?
So there was nothing wrong with it, but there was no space for me to be me.
And there was nothing wrong with it, but I had to get the divorce.
So him being financially responsible, all of those things are good traits to have. We were incompatible.
He was Mr. Right. He was focused on you. All those negative aspects that you talked about before, he didn't have any of those. And yet she still divorced him.
So I
want you all to think about that for a few moments. He did everything, quote unquote, right, and still got that she penalized him.
Have you been married before?
No, and you know why, Karen? Do you know why?
So
do you know why I haven't been married?
You've never been married. You don't know what it's like and what it takes to be married, and you don't know what. And if you've never been married, You don't have the experience of marriage. It's like stepping in a space, right? You're single, you operate a certain way. You're married, you have a different mentality. You're in a different space. You get divorced, you're in a different space. Mentally, you're in a different space. So you can't sit there and say like you understand all of that. And it's not about all those things. But at the end of the day, what was happening, I wanted to cut my hair. I had really long hair. My hair came down to like the middle of my back. And he was like, no. And then one day I cut my hair off. And he was pissed that I cut my hair. I cut my hair. He was upset.
Okay, well, first of all, you are his representative. So all he gets is you. So yes, you and the way you look is of value to him in a level that's not to you.
And I should show up the way he wants me to show up and not have an identity and be a person. So
no, ma'am. No, what I'm saying is that you are the only thing that he gets for all that financial frugality and looking out for your future. You're all he gets. When you file for divorce, he lost it all. That's the difference.
So here's the thing. So I don't get to be myself and I don't get to do the things that I love.
Wait a minute. Everybody in the relationship has to make sacrifices. He wasn't getting 100% of what he wanted. Neither do you. But you wanted everything you wanted. He didn't get everything he wanted. If I talk to your ex-husband right now, is he going to say he got everything he wanted?
He didn't do those things for me. He was already driven to do, he was already that person. Like I said, he was valedictorian of his high school. He was valedictorian of college. He had a set mindset of what he wanted to do. He was already saving in college. Like he was very responsible. And it had nothing to do with Karen. It had everything to do with who he chose to be.
Right, but did he get everything that he wanted in being married to you? Wasn't he sacrificing things that he wanted simply as a consequence of being married to you?
I'm sure.
Thank you. So both of you had to make sacrifices.
But at the same token, I had to figure out who I was. And in the process of doing that, it disrupted his internal environment. It wasn't controlled.
And that is the reason that Black women today have only a 25% marriage rate. Most of them are single, and men like myself, that's the reason we don't enter it, because you can do everything for Karen and she will still leave you and divorce you.
I could have learned to be myself in that space. I most likely wouldn't have divorced him, but there was little things that I would do that I could see that if we stayed, it would have been very contentious. I actually didn't have a contentious marriage. We never even argued. We never even fought.
But yet below the surface, you were simmering that everything was wrong. He didn't know it, but his marriage was getting ready to end because he's doing everything his parents told him to do, and you were still unhappy.
Here's the thing. I told him he didn't want to listen.
Wait a minute, but at what point is enough enough? When is enough enough?
So no, because you're looking at all of that. You're looking at what he did, and he was a great man. It had
not great enough to stay married to, but okay.
But the thing is, I couldn't be me. I couldn't be me. I couldn't, let's say, okay, for instance, we went to Taiwan. He was there on business. I wanted to go to the hot springs. It was about 3 hours away. He was like, that's not safe. You cannot go. If I had went, I would have to deal with the attitude that he was going to give me when I returned. So I didn't get to do some of the things that I enjoyed doing because he had to feel comfortable.
So let me get this straight, everyone. He was financially monogamous, socially monogamous, physically monogamous, and she divorced him for some ice skates in a hot spring in Taiwan.
So no, here's the thing. You're saying, I'm going to sell out who I am and my soul for finances to be married to a monogamous man. Like none of that is ever worth you and who you are. There's no way. There's no way you would give up everything about who you are for a woman. Period. Unless
that is what we do. That's the real problem.
And so women would argue the opposite. We probably would say you're probably a lot more selfish, and that women need to learn to become selfish.
Okay, here's the issue here. You can't make that statement because, as I said before, you all come in the door expecting, whether he likes it or not, you expect that a man is going to sacrifice much more for you than you're going to sacrifice for him coming in the door. So we automatically are giving up things walking in the door. Vanessa wants us to be monogamous and then make a bunch of money. We're sacrificing walking in the door.
I think that it's sacrificing only if you don't feel like it's possible for yourself. You
That's
don't
not
have
no,
that
that's not
standard
fair.
for yourself.
That's not a fair statement.
It
There's a lot of
is.
things there are a lot of things that are possible that are unreasonable.
That's not unreasonable, though. There's many men that do it that is monogamous who is happy.
Okay, let's try this a different way. You're saying that there needs to be a guy out there that he is going to get himself into the best version of himself. He is going to become an extraordinary man. He is going to come in the top 10% of everything, and that he has to get the exact same reward that the dude making $30,000 a year gets. He doesn't get anything more.
He has his list of what he wants, and that should be met as well. We're not for everyone, right?
Okay, you say he has this list of things. If he can't impose it, if you're gonna put the limitations on him, then he's not getting what he wants. If Vanessa says, here's what you cannot get, you can be extraordinary, but I'm gonna tell you what you can't get.
Why does he have to have everything? First of all, if he were very honest up front, it's an agreement, right? He could come up and say, I would like an open relationship.
Right.
And there are women who would agree to that. But why would you come to a woman who wants monogamy and then impose upon her an open relationship and expect her to stay and expect her to not be upset and to not walk away? Like,
is monogamy natural?
Oh, it is not natural. It requires.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. There's only one societal construct we can all find. It's not LGBT. It's monogamy. That's a social construct that men created because we want to make sure that whatever pops out of you after 9 months is actually mine. If I'm going to be responsible for this little sapsucker for the next 20 years, I need to make sure that's my legacy that you're carrying. So yes, we as men created the social construct of monogamy. Absolutely. But it's not natural. And you know this as a woman.
So I think it can be natural. I think urges in the body, you can't control that. But it doesn't mean you have to act upon it.
Discipline.
It's just hormones in the body. Hormones are running through the body. So then you're telling me you're so powerless that you let hormones in your body dictate your actions and your future.
No, absolutely not. Because there's a thing called discipline. Monogamy is not natural. Then again, there are a number of things that do not necessarily come quote unquote natural that we can control through practice and behavior. You can be socialized into it. So you're socialized into monogamy, but you're not born into it. Ma'am, that's psychology 101. That's not my opinion. That's psychology 101. That's psych 101. You're not born into monogamy. You're socialized into it. That's psych 101. That's not my opinion.
So I think we're born into a world that has all of that exists. And we get to choose. Sometimes we don't. We just follow agreements. We get to choose what path we want to go. It's still a choice at the end of the day. Monogamy is a choice. Being open is a choice. You don't have to do that. You choose to do that. And I just think you need to be honest and straightforward with whoever you're with what your desires are. And that's it. It's simple.
Karen, did you have any children? I forgot if you mentioned that before. Did you have any children?
I don't have children.
Okay. So fellas, the shop is still open. Get at her. Not by DM though. You got to meet her in person. She doesn't answer DMs at all, no matter how good the compliments are. Vanessa, can you admit you can't be pleased? If I talk to your ex-husband tonight, he would tell me, Jason, it don't matter what you do. She can't be pleased. Can we just be honest? Women today cannot be pleased. The more you give them, the more they want. Everybody didn't want a Louis Vuitton bag and a Prada bag 10 years ago. Now it's a requisite and a requirement, something that's supposed to be for the top 1%. Will you just adhere to that? I'll let you go for what you said before about Lizzo. If you'll just concede this point, just say, hey, women today just really can't be pleased.
Women can be pleased, but it really comes along with her knowing herself. And then number one, having the space for both people to equally be themselves, whatever that looks like. If there's certain things that you can't bond on and you want to bond on things, then, but of course, people don't learn these things unless through trial and error. So I feel like if you can enter a space where you guys both have your free range to be you can communicate, the sex is great, and you have aligned goals, things can grow and things can be worked on. A lot of people don't want to work on things, but women can be pleased as long as they know themselves so that they know what to ask for.
Do you think that you were as accommodating to your husband after you had got pregnant, had children, as you were before?
Uh, I was 17 years old. I feel like I'm a
Okay, but you were also a little chunky back then, but that's not my point. My point is, after you became a mother, do you think that your husband got the same benefits from you that he received before?
no. I don't know. Again, I was in high school. I'm a bad comparison.
No, that's not. That's typical. When if a woman has any sort of life change whatsoever, the man is going to be expected to maintain everything he's doing, including monogamy, even though she is now far less available to him than she ever was.
Mhm.
He's going to have to stay the same. Meanwhile, she can freestyle and say, "Well, I got kids to take care of. I got," and he's going to have to take that L and hold that loss.
That's why I feel like you got to find a woman that holds herself to a high standard too. I hold myself to a very high standard.
What standard
But
is that? Getting a nanny?
huh?
What standard is that? Hiring a nanny?
What I'm saying is that, yeah, there's a certain level of understanding, especially when you do have kids for that person. But I don't use those things as excuses. But
Okay, but that's typically, first of all, I would like to ask, your ex-husband's the only one who can weigh in on this and say, hey, let me tell you the truth about it. But
right.
typically speaking, that's what happens. Women, as they go along, once you all become mothers, the man gets kicked on the back burner. And everything gets subjugated. He doesn't get a vote. He doesn't get a say. He doesn't get to object. It's just, well, this is what it is now. So the benefits he was receiving before, it's a given he's not going to continue getting them. He'll still be married to you, and you'll still have every single one of your requirements before, but he's now going to be getting less of you.
So in my dynamic, we both equally put the kids first. We put our whole relationship, I guess, second in order to provide for our children. So I guess, yes, that is absolutely true because both of our needs were sacrificed at that point.
And how do you think that affects the men in the population out here? Because I don't have any children. I've never been married. And I know that that's what's going to happen.
I don't want to say, because I don't feel like if I enter into a marriage again and we were to have a kid, I feel like where I am now, I would make sure that he would never feel like he's last and we would prioritize us. So kids bring abundance. I don't feel like it should take away. And I feel like whenever you're doing it wrong and you prioritize them more than you do you guys as a couple, that's when you run into those issues. So,
you think children bring abundance for a man?
To your life, absolutely.
So you think that children are a net benefit for men?
Absolutely. Legacy.
Well, that's great, but how many men actually have a legacy to pass on, V?
Well, in the men that I date, I can only say things from my reality, right? Everybody lives a different life, a lifestyle, accepts certain things. I can only speak for myself.
Okay, well, you speak for yourself then.
Jason, I have a question for you.
Yes, Karen. This is where she goes at me, y'all. So go ahead, Karen.
Coming back to what about me? That's essentially what you're asking, and you're not really actually focused on the bigger goal and the vision. And I think that also comes into play when you pick a man, and he has to have a bigger vision, because when you sit there and think about that, like what she was saying, you learn that through trial and error. You learn that becomes important. The relationship and maintaining it becomes important. You learn your sex life becomes important, and you put that in, right? But if a man has never gone through being in a serious relationship and put in the work and understands that you have to do something to have all of those things, it's possible that all you're bringing, Jason, are problems, but you got to bring the solution. And if he's not focused on the solution and he's over here, but what about me? He's not focused on the bigger vision of where this family is going. All that gets addressed if he communicates it, but it doesn't get addressed if he goes and cheats.
Right.
Okay, how do you address the fact that she throws a swerve at you and changes up after you've signed the marriage document? How do you address that?
So I think you also have to understand the life changes, right? We're moving, things are constantly changing, so we have to adjust. It's not going to be the same. And if you're viewing this as it's static, then you're not approaching it with a mindset that is resourceful, that can deal with the challenges.
I
Yes.
agree. So can you deal with the challenge of monogamy then?
There is challenges. That's what it comes out to: open communication. But here's the thing, a lot of women can't handle those conversations.
Uh-oh.
I think she's been abducted.
Sorry, I had a call.
I'm sorry. I thought your ex-husband came in the room. I was about to say, wait a minute, we might need V. You said too damn much. You said
No,
too
but
much.
a lot of people can't handle. A lot of people are in la la land. They feel like it is easy to have that discipline, and it's not. And I feel like having that open communication, that I'm not going to be the only person that you find attractive. I'm not going to be the only person that you probably want to sleep with. You might be attracted to me now. Maybe in 5 months, you might be a little bit less sensitive to my looks. And I feel like that having those transparent conversations and being real, that's what's key. But a lot of people don't have like what it takes to have those conversations. They get hurt.
Well, communication is good, and being able to openly communicate is great. Most people don't do very good at that. Selfishness certainly is a big issue, Karen. Absolutely it is. I mean, in the human condition, I think all relationships of any nature, employment, family, male-female breakdown because somebody decides to start taking liberties. Absolutely.
So
Here's the thing. As men, can you understand that for me, for example, at my age, I'm almost 50 now, God almighty. But what I'm saying is that, do you understand that there's a reason why we have men across the board moving the same way? When you have them acting and going the same way, that's not accidental. That's because there's something that we're seeing. And what I'm saying is, do you realize, as nice as you are, when you say things like, yeah, my husband did all these things and I still divorced him, do you realize what that does? To when men hear that over and over from our brothers, from our cousins, from our coworkers, we know these men personally, and they went off and took that leap. And that was the reward that they're getting across the nation, across the board. Do you know what that does to us when we hear that?
I think things have to be uncollapsed here, right? So now you're bringing in the ideal of abandonment issues. There is nothing wrong with divorcing when it's not a workable situation. Our marriage lacked workability. It didn't work. And so if we would have continued on, there would have been tension. There would have been arguing. We didn't have that because I saw it coming by the little things I did. I saw how he was behaving. I tried to communicate and talk it through the best that I could at that time. And now I realize I lack the ability to communicate, the ability to process my own emotions. Those are things that I've learned over the past 6 years. So as I look at a relationship that I'm walking into, I'm bringing in a new Karen that has a different skill set because I focused on that. So my goal, if I marry again, I plan to marry right. If it happens to end in divorce, it just happens to end in divorce. And I'm okay with that too, because we would have looked at it's not workable. But I think if he's going to be fearful, right? We fail all the time in life. If he loses a career, is he crushed? No, he's going to get back up and he's going to do something else, hopefully, right? So just because something ends, you can't keep holding on to something that doesn't work, because you are now putting yourself in you're torturing yourself. And why would you do that? Why would you want to keep someone there that, number one, probably doesn't want to be there and it isn't a good fit for you? Because then I would have to go back and look back at you and say, okay, what part of you says that this that's not working is acceptable? And that's love. Why would you stay there? As a man, this woman is bringing you misery. Why would you stay there? Because you're afraid that she would divorce you? Because you're afraid of being alone?
Oh, no, ma'am, because divorce means something different for females than it means for men. You know that.
Here's the thing. I think we focus on the wrong things, because you're valuing money over your peace of mind, over your freedom. It's money. Money can be built again. But if you're going to harbor resentment and anger, you are the one who gets to keep that. You're the one holding it. You're the one who's sitting there being tortured. Let it go. It's in the past. Move on with your life. The things that you do want.
Alimony isn't in the past.
All of that stuff is negotiable. If you have children, you get alimony. I didn't have children, so I didn't get alimony. But what I'm saying is that it's just, and here's the thing, why would you not want your children to be taken care of as a man?
Okay, but that's the thing, is that if a man doesn't get into a marriage looking to get divorced, a divorce costs us far more than it costs a woman.
So then he probably should remain monogamous.
Monogamy,
the man shouldn't be monogamous. He should, because he gives the woman everything, that he should go out and do whatever he wants to do.
Okay, but what is the number one cause of divorce, Karen? Is it infidelity, or is it finances?
Most people would say finances.
Okay, so thank you. So you're advising men be monogamous, and by definition, the court records show they're already doing that. And they're getting divorced. Case in point, your ex-husband was infinitely monogamous, infinitely financially providing, and that didn't save him.
But it's not. So it's not. You have to look at your life, and it's an individual. It's an individual process. It is. And so if you're looking at what all of the men are going through, and that becomes your fear, that becomes your limit. That's on you.
The court system has nothing to do with how we feel. That's going to be something imposed on us.
Here's the thing. So just like men apply this pressure. I got to work hard. It's a burden to have all these things so I can attract the top woman. That's a choice. You chose that. But then my
who doesn't want a top person, Karen? Who doesn't want that?
Here's the thing. But what does that? What is that serving actually? What part of you is that serving?
Having a top quality female, what part of you is that serving? I think that question answers itself.
But is it serving you? It's serving a part of you. So okay. So then I would say it's probably stroking your ego. If I have this, then I have a certain status. I have this, I'm powerful. But you don't have to have all that to be powerful.
But what motivates, those things you're talking about for a man to be productive, what do you think it is that is motivating us? Thank you. You're going to take away the only thing that motivates us. Let's be very, very clear. Cute face, slim waist, large rear end. That's what motivates us. That's the only thing you offer. So you're saying take away the only things that motivate us, but still produce at a high level?
But okay. I don't even know if men have to do all that to get a woman with a slim waist and a pretty face. I don't think you have to work all that hard.
Ma'am, wrong. You
see it every day.
No, we see women like you every day, and the men, most of them, what percentage of the men in real life who approach you get declined?
A huge percentage.
Thank you, but you are not an outlier.
It's not because, okay, so number one, you also have to look at people's focus. My focus is not relationship. So if I'm declining, it's because he hasn't asked the question, are you even open to dating? And if he were to ask me if I'm open, I'd be like, no, I'm not really focused on that right now. If I'm open, then I'm going to be more receptive. So it is a no if that's not my focus. But we don't ask the right questions. We just assume that because I'm a certain way or I look a certain way that I approach something, it should be handed to me. There's very little communication. There's very little, let me be over in this other person's world to see who they are, where they're at, what do they want? Like, you're not looking at that. You're looking at, well, what do I have to give her to get her?
Well, no, it's not about what we have to give you. It's about what we have to be, because as you said, that's correct. Income is not enough. For a guy to get damn near the average female today, he's got to be the total damn package. Otherwise, he's invisible. He's got to have the looks. He's got to have the status. He's got to have the swag. He's got to have the money. He can't just be one-dimensional. A woman can be one-dimensional, cute face, slim waist. Men can't do that today, Karen. You know that's not. You know there's none of your female clients who are looking for a guy who's one-dimensional. He's got to have it all. And if V can ever get that man's hands from around her throat, she'll get back in here and tell us again that she wants it all. She literally said, I'm in my 30s with 2 kids, a divorcee, and I can have it all.
So Jason, are you saying what do you want? Because I really don't think it's hard for you to get a pretty woman who's fit.
Have you ever been a man trying to get a pretty woman who's fit?
So
60% of the male, 60% of the females today are overweight. But by the way, have you ever been a man trying to do that?
There are so many other things that aren't being considered here.
Wow. Okay. Thank you.
There are so many other factors. Safety, men and women, how men, like they probably could, but the thing is, it sometimes is scary out here to be a woman. It is not safe. And so women put up blinders to protect themselves. It's not always necessarily about like what he has. You cannot allow everyone in your space. You have to have discernment.
But by definition, what you get and what we get are different. So what you're saying are the things that motivate you to be with a man are not the things that motivate us to be with you. And you're saying we should compromise on the only things that actually motivate us to fight, to try, to excel, to persevere, to become that kind of man that attracts you. You're saying we should compromise on that. That it's a non-starter. That's the only thing that motivates us.
I would hope that I would have a man that finds fulfillment in who he is and is looking for a woman that complements him on his journey of life and not be driven by the looks of a woman. Because here's the thing, we're all going to get old. Things can happen in life. So I would hope that he would put more value in the person versus her physical appearance. It's
okay,
not.
How about we're all going to get broke? Things happen in life.
That could happen.
And you would still advise the woman to stay with him?
That's an individual choice of what she chooses to do. Like I can't advise, right? So if someone's married, some people take their vows very seriously, till death do us part, however that looks, right? And whether a man loses everything, usually a woman will try to build that man up. And if she fails at like getting to him because he's, he's crushed. His ego has been crushed. He can't see the future, and he's sitting there. Like usually, women will stand by a man to try, and usually
that's not usually what happens. That's not true, Karen.
See,
the divorce statistics bear out. That's not the way women move. When the money drops off, the clock is ticking on him. There isn't some invisible bank of goodwill that he's drawing against for the time that he was in that marriage. That's not what's happening.
I don't think that men take the time to sit there and maybe look at their partner. I think where you're looking at statistics, but you're not seeing the full picture. There's a whole context behind all that. A lot of women have tried really hard, and when they didn't get anywhere, then divorce became the only other option. At that point, they've probably torn each other apart. It's a blame game. It's a whole bunch of destructive things that have happened. It's an unhealthy relationship at that point.
Well, it certainly can be.
Women are not just going to leave because a man lost his money. She's going to maybe stick around unless her only reason for being there with you was money. But if she actually cared about you, she's going to do what it takes to help build back the empire.
But by your own admission, money is a deal breaker. So money cannot simultaneously.
I never said that. That's what you said. You led the conversation that way.
Ma'am, you said that you would not get with a man who didn't make a certain threshold of money. Money is a deal breaker.
I didn't say that. I said usually the men that I attract typically do have money.
Would you give the time once again? Would you give the time of day to a guy who made $25,000 a year working at the kennel?
The type of men that I talk to and I attract, they just happen to have that. That's
if you were approached by Mr. Sterling personality, good character, good work ethic, who makes $25,000 a year working at the kennel, would he have a shot to be with Karen?
We have a shot to be friends. And if friendship were to evolve into something more, maybe, I don't know. I can't really say because I'm not there. I haven't dealt with that. I've been in a season of singleness. And that's been it. I've been open and I had to do a lot of healing. And I wasn't ready to be in a relationship. I chose I wasn't ready.
All this Oprah Winfrey talk, boy, I gotta tell you.
So here's the thing, and I think that sometimes we don't take a look at that. I do look to see if a man is healthy and he's ready to be in a relationship. Now he may think he is, But when I sit there and evaluate how he thinks, how he moves, how the choices that he makes, his coping mechanisms, his emotional intelligence, sometimes I find he's not quite ready.
Right,
yet.
but you're saying if he wants to, if financially, every other way he's developed, because there's a lot of dudes out there who are, was it the guys who play chess at the park in New York and whatnot, they are intellectually very astute, intellectually very fast. Finances are not something that they prioritize. So if otherwise, he's content living the simple life of a guy working at the kennel and everything, all of the things are equal. He's just financially, he's very simple to deal with. You would still you would not consider him.
Everybody has a preference. So I don't know. I may value that. I do value connection. I do value him being his word. I do value consistency. I do value discipline. I also value being driven. I also value personal development. So
is there such a man is there such a thing as a man who is driven and personally developed who doesn't make a high income?
Yes, I've seen those.
Okay, so that guy would have a shot at you, correct?
Maybe. If I can see the potential, because I like to grow. I like to build new things, and so that becomes, are we compatible and suitable? That becomes a suitability question. I mean, there's so many factors into dating. You can't just simply say it's just that. And we love to point to one thing, and yet it's not that simple, because when you point to the one thing, how many of those relationships are lasting?
Okay.
They're not working. So we have to be what they don't work. So maybe we need to start looking at some other variables that are equally as important in a relationship evolving and working and lasting. You keep doing the same thing, you're going to get the same results. So men maybe want to choose different, maybe think different about who they're choosing as a partner.
Okay, let me ask you one more question here, because I'm going to wrap things up. We've gone a little bit long because Karen has been lambasting me with her outrageously overly optimistic view of things. I knew it coming in. I just didn't know it was going to be this bad. I'm telling you. Karen, who is simpler, men or women? Don't do this. Karen, don't do this. You have a reputation. Don't do this.
So here's what I would say. I would say on the surface that men appear simple, but they have a lot more depth. It's not as simple and cut as dry as we make it out to be.
Are women half as simple as men are?
We've always been complex.
Are women twice as complex as men?
You can't measure. How do you measure that?
Let me tell you exactly how you measure it, Karen. Have you been to a department store shopping for clothes anytime recently?
I have not. I think it's not correct, but no, that was not my goal when I walked in.
Karen is living an affluent yet simple life, which is amazing. One of these days, I'm gonna have you come on here just to explain who you are and how you move. Karen, you have seen the women's section at a department store for underwear, and then take a look at the men's section for underwear. Women have 1,000 different varieties. Men have 4. That's it. Go take a look at the women's shoe section. Women have at least 20 types of shoes. Men have 3.
Because we have to work really hard to attract the men, apparently.
But I thought you all said the men attract y'all no matter what happens. Which is it? Thank you very much. So, ma'am, women are infinitely, you name anything in society, you all have to have a dozen different colors, flavors, textures. You can't have just 1 or 2. Men, we can have the color black in denim and a TV and a couch, and we straight.
I don't think that's true. I did go through a phase where I wore solid black. And the reason being is I didn't want to spend time waking up in the morning thinking about what I had to wear, because I felt like my thought process and my decision-making was better spent, that energy was better spent elsewhere than thinking about clothes. So I did conform to a uniform for about a year.
Just because Albert Einstein said that was the reason for wearing purple suits doesn't mean that you can use that, by the way. But thank you very much. I caught that one there. Karen, women are infinitely more complex than men. Not a little bit.
That way, though. It keeps it fresh.
We make it that way?
I said y'all like it that way.
No, we don't, ma'am. That's why we want 20 and simple.
No, because if we made it simple for y'all, y'all would get bored with the chase. We have to keep you stimulated. Otherwise, you cheat, I guess.
That's interesting. That's like an employer saying, you know, if I paid you more money and if I gave you less work to do, you would get bored and you wouldn't be stimulated. So I work like a dog because I want you to stay engaged and stimulated. So
No, I think women do what they do because they love it. I know I do things or wear colors and things like that because I like the way I feel in it. It has nothing to do with the man. That's the
I
truth.
agree. Yes, absolutely. That has nothing to do with men. You all wanting heels or stilettos, the colors, the shapes, the sizes, from the time you're little girls. That's just who you are. That's just it. You're right. Has nothing to do with us. You're way more complicated. And if you can't get along with the simplest creature on the planet, a Homo sapien man, what does that tell you?
So here's the thing. Interestingly enough, that you bring that up, I'm reading a book that it's basically explaining men, and it did surveys and all these things, and apparently men wanted all those things, but they were taught that it's not manly to do that, so they were stifled in their self-expression. So it's not that y'all were just born like this; y'all were conditioned to be this way, conditioned to only have a few things. So I don't know necessarily like. If we're saying that men are like this, it's truly who you are. It just might be how society viewed you and you had to be forced to be that way. Or you chose to be that way because you thought that was the expectation. But I think that that's a lot. And I know there's men who've gone on the journey of discovering self that are undoing all of that. And it takes time. I think women are just more inclined to do it because we start to realize we don't feel good in that. So we start to discover ourselves. And I don't think men are allowed the space to do that. And that is okay by society. So that's why you feel the pressure. Well, the woman will leave, or I can't do this, or it's not manly. It's because society has made it that way, but not every woman is like that. So I think that you have to spend a little bit more time in using discernment and picking your partner. Men have to do it and women have to do that. And you need to discover who you are and what you want. So it goes all back to that. If you pick, you may fail at your picking, you'll fail forward, but like you'll be closer.
I am going to have Karen back on one of these days so that she can decipher this stuff for us. I'm going to have her on back at some point so she can decipher this. We sure do need that. In any case, Karen, why don't you go ahead and give everybody your Instagram?
Defining.Karen.
That's defining.Karen. If you want a really big dose of inspiration, sunny disposition, endless optimism, she is the person to call in that regard. So thank you very much for joining us here tonight. V, I hope that your arraignment goes well. Apparently, if they can't bail or bond you out, I hope it goes better than that. But thank you very much for joining us here tonight, Karen. This has been very enlightening. I think it's been interesting. I think folks have gotten a lot out of it here. And I want to thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. You take care. And certainly here, like I say, for everybody involved, just understand you don't have to agree with everything. That's not the point. You don't have to agree with that. But it certainly helps. Hey, I definitely want to make sure that you all have joined us here for the business. It's been an engaging conversation here. And definitely it's going to be one of those things where, like I say, you don't have to sit up here and agree with everything. There's a lot to learn. I do these things because I want you to have insights into how they think and let them speak on their own. I'm sure you all have a lot to say about this. But we'll be talking about this again soon. I'm going to have some other folks on here to join us. So definitely I want to thank Defining Karen for being on. Thanks, V. Thank you to all of you who joined us here tonight. And this concludes tonight's broadcast of The Business. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, Mr. Jason Black. And until next time, my brothers and my sisters from around the world, remember, handle your business or your business will handle you.